Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following episode. My name is Colton Brown. Joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Hey, dude. How are you?
Hello. Well, I'm fresh off watching the finale of The Last of Us. HBO's The Last of Us. You've probably had it swirling around in your brain for a couple weeks now, something like that. Since the finale dropped, I myself have been moving at a slow clip, but finally just wrapped it up.
Well, you're a little bit more ambitious
to record
than me
and talk
too,
about
though. You've done things. You've done other things. You had
maybe a little bit. Well, I played the game a lot. That might be okay. Yeah, that's fair. We'll talk about that obviously, and we'll talk about the show plenty. But yeah, no, it's all fresh for me, and that's kind of fun. I feel like, you know,
you don't get it all the time,
right? Yeah, sometimes I wait too long, and something like this, I've had a lot of time with The Last of Us in terms of the storyline, so it's not really my first time with the story, but it's the first time seeing this iteration of it, so it's kind of interesting. I'm excited to talk about the video game versus the show on its own, that sort of thing. That's the kind of thing that we're going to talk about on this episode, talking about The Last of Us. At long last. First TV show feels like we've done in a while as well.
I think so, yeah.
It's a tougher thing to get through, 8+ hours of content on any given week. But when it's a show like this, you make the time for it, even if it took me a bit longer than usual. You still find the time, you carve out the time, you make it happen, and perhaps you are rewarded for spending time with it. We'll talk about that.
Or you're beating the fucking trenches and you go to bed fucking sad. You have that.
Yeah, that's true. You could have that experience as well. You could have that experience. That's true. This is it's not an uplifting show, is it? No, it's not. But anyway, it's been, I think, a good little while since we did our little Oscars extravaganza with Anna. We were like, we're not going to do as much as we did last year. And then 3 hours later, like, oh shit, we did as much as last year.
Surprise.
So anyway, we're back on track, I guess, with the regular episode. For this one, we'll get some news that we'll talk about. We'll do big non-spoiler coverage of The Last of Us, and then a spoilerific deep dive, I think, and then whatever else we've been up to in our personal lives, good stuff like that. So, anything you want to talk about at the top, either on your front, things been going okay, or you ready to dive into a fun fact? I'm open. We can do what you want.
I have an interesting fact about this show.
Okay, well, I would love to hear it. And I think, if I may speak for them, the listeners would love to hear it as well. All 7 of them.
So I was experiencing the show in the moment with the rest of
week to week,
with the rest of the rest of everyone else on the planet.
Yeah,
and
the increased viewership. I mean, this is this show that climbed week to week. Like people were.
Did it really?
Yeah, like people were, it was like turning people's heads and like, oh shit, I got to get on this. So like,
and Pedro Pascal is like he's
he's taking over the internet
right now,
right? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the show really kind of became another HBO phenomenon as it went on, which was really kind of interesting. So anyway, yes, you're fine.
So I was right there with the masses, one thing that was circulating the web was a rumored $500,000 suit. That went on a particular
made by
creature.
Tom Ford. Okay.
Yeah,
yes,
a creature. Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
It went on the 6'6" guy or 6'4" dude. This enormous guy, and it took an hour for him to get in the suit, and it's all they oiled it up and everything else. Anyways, I read somewhere that it was supposed to cost $500,000. I think that part might be a rumor, but maybe not. Who knows? Anyways, I thought that was interesting. A lot of effort went into this one creature's design, and it was a big moment in the show too. We'll probably talk about it at some point. But it was crazy when this creature that came out of this with this enormous man in it, the suit and everything. I can't even find my words. It blew my mind. Yeah, big dude, big ass, expensive suit. I think they call him the bloater daddy or something like that. Fungus daddy or something.
Maybe that's what the internet calls. I think it's a bloater in the games, but maybe there's a new vernacular, for all the folks that have hopped on the Last of Us train with the TV show. I'm not sure. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and I imagine it's probably supplemented with CGI, but it's interesting that they would go a little bit practical.
Yeah, they went fully
instead
practical.
Of just going full CG.
I guess not full practical because there was certainly CG on there to increase the size and stuff. But
right, but they
a lot of effort
decided
went
to start practical and build on that, which I think is probably a good approach to making things look good.
That's right.
Generally speaking. So yeah, well, that's interesting. $500,000. I could use $500,000. I probably wouldn't buy a bloater suit with it. But that would be cool too. That would be cool.
I don't think we'd be able to walk around very much.
I wouldn't fit in it very well as part of the problem. Yeah, I don't really think I have the physicality for it, but
the guy that went in it was he's an enormous dude. He's a stunt guy.
I see.
But anyways.
Well, I have a fun fact myself. So a recurring theme. Well, maybe I should step back for a second and give the funnest fact of them all. You may know this. Some of our listeners probably know this. This TV show is based off a video game of the same name by Studio Naughty Dog. And the way that they made that game is they had performers who actually did physical motion capture performance for the characters in the game. And they did the voices, they voiced it, so they kind of made like little movies kind of throughout the game. Obviously, there's, the CG pre-rendered kind of stuff that they do for the games to have like cutscenes, just cutscenes for these cutscenes. Like there's a lot of actual performances that go into bringing those to life. And so one really cool thing that I think that they did when they were making this show is, first of all, it's co-created by one of the creators of the game, Neil Druckmann. So it brought someone in who knows and breathes, this game, co-created it, made the sequel as well, Part 2, Last of Us Part 2. But they also brought in a lot of their performers, the motion capture performers and the voice actors that worked on the first game, and they cast them in different roles throughout the show. And when they're not like huge roles for the most part, but it was a nice nod, like a nice tip of the cap, I guess you might say, to the people who brought these characters to life in the first incarnation that made this game series as popular as it could be to then be turned into a big HBO TV show, where you can buy bloater suits for $500,000 and not blink an eye. Particularly, they brought Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, who played Joel and Ellie in the game respectively, and some minor roles. And I won't really say who they're playing, with one exception for obvious reasons. And they also brought in Jeffrey Pierce, who played Tommy, Joel's brother in the video games, to be in this. They brought in a very small cameo of Laura Bailey, who plays a character in Part 2, a big character in Part 2. She has a small cameo in this first season. And then finally, I think probably the coolest one of them all, Merle Dandridge, who plays Marlene in the games, plays Marlene in the show. They just straight up kept her full on from the game to the show. It's one of those classic things where like she just kind of looked like her character in the game just looked like her anyway, so it really wasn't a hard leap in logic. Whereas with some of the other characters, they didn't look exactly like they did in the game. So the recast, like Pedro Pascal, is not exactly what Joel looks like in the game. Joel in the game is just a white guy. You know what I mean? So there are a little bit of differences here and there. But I thought that was really cool that they just retained Merle Dandridge just to play Marlene in both the game and the show. So yeah, that's my little fun fact.
I have an additional fun fact.
No, let's just keep trading back and forth. I love it.
I discovered this fun fact very recently. If you head to Google and type in The Last of Us, look at this Easter egg.
Is there a Google Easter egg?
There's a Google Easter egg, and I swear to God, I just found it. I didn't look it up. I didn't do anything. I just typed in Last of Us.
All right. Oh, is there a little mushroom, little fungus button that I'm seeing?
There's a little mushroom cap there. Yep. And go ahead and click that.
Are the cordyceps spreading? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, and just click the shit out of it. It goes everywhere.
Click the shit out of it. Oh, there it is. Oh my goodness. Oh, we're all fucked. We are so fucked. My computer has been turned. The computer is infected. Well, Mozilla, Firefox.
And then if you hit the X button, it goes away.
Well, what if I hit the share button? Share it. If I share it to Facebook,
shit.
Twitter, or email, it doesn't infect those. Is that how this works? It's like a virus, but not actually a virus because it's a fungus.
Fungus, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Good on you, Google. Jumping in on the Last of Us train. They should get Pedro Pascal integrated in there somewhere to really capture the internet's attention too. Yeah. Little thing, his just smiling face from Unbearable Weight, the meme. Him driving. That's pretty fucking cool. I did not know that existed. How
about that?
Pretty neat stuff. All right. So yeah, we're back to regular kind of flow of things. We've got some news to talk about. We'll actually kick things off with a little in memoriam section here. It's going to be a somber kind of episode in the sense that The Last of Us is a heavy fucking show. But we'll start with something that is truly not just fiction, making us sad, but real life events making us sad. And Lance Reddick passed away, age 60, March 17th. So a little over a week ago from when we're recording. Really kind of out of nowhere thing, and it fucking blows too because John Wick 4 just came out. He's in that. I mean, he's been in so many fucking things, and he's great in everything. Really kind of felt
sucks.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, it definitely sucks. It just really felt like just out of nowhere. I mean, they're saying dying from natural causes, and it's like, this man is 60 years old. That's unusual, is it not? But I mean, obviously it happens. It does happen, but you just don't really expect it, I guess, for someone who obviously 60 is not young per se, but I think it's a relatively young age to die of natural causes, I would say. So it's a really sad loss. And
he looks like he was an in shape guy.
Correct. Right. Yeah. You wouldn't know it, that there would be any sort of, medical issues present, and maybe there's more to the story than we don't know, or it's just a thing, just a fluky thing. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he's a great actor. John Wick franchise, he was great in all of those. He had a big role in The Wire, which I'm ashamed to say I still have not watched.
Bosch, your father's favorite.
French. He was in Bosch. That's right. He was in Lost, Anna's favorite show. And he was Wesker in Resident Evil, one of your favorite shows of last year.
That's right.
Which sadly did not get renewed. But
he did do a good job in that show, though. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. He's an actor that's great. He's a great actor. So regardless of the project, he put the work in. He's that kind of actor. Never someone that really seemed to have a lead actor kind of role. I think he would have crushed it had he did. I guess he was in video games as well. He was in the Horizon franchise, Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, big roles in that. I think he did like a character and voice in Destiny because there was a big outpouring of support from the Destiny community after the news of his passing came out. Yeah, I just you covered it. I mean, it sucks, quite simply. But it's just sad. It's a sad loss. Oh, and I must say, check out his appearance on the Eric Andre show as well, because that's a classic of the Eric Andre show.
Is that when he comes out in the fucking he comes out with the
it comes out
with the Star Trek thing?
Yeah, he's wearing the Geordie LaForge visor and slave chains. Where's my iconic slave role?
That was fantastic. That was
incredible. I wish I would love our Burton. Truly fucking iconic. Truly iconic shit right there.
What a show.
But yeah, it sucks. It's a really sad loss. I haven't seen John Wick 4 yet. I am looking forward to it for the reason of it being another John Wick movie, but I think it's going to be bittersweet seeing Lance Reddick in one of his final film roles. So yeah. Rest in peace to Mr. Lance Reddick. Great actor. Just a sad loss. So, if you're ready to move on, we can get in some headlines.
Yeah, let's do it. What do we got?
Make a good time for that. All right, so we've got a good mix of headlines here. Some, just like film newsy things, and then some like shit's going down kind of or sideways kind of news. So we'll start with kind of the two more traditional headlines. Variety put out a little article towards the beginning of the month of March, I should say, because probably by the time this is out, it's April and whatnot. So towards the beginning of March, they put out an article kind of discussing a shakeup in terms of Star Wars films to expect in the future, which is to say, like, Disney, Lucasfilm, they've announced like a bunch of fucking Star Wars movies, and like we've seen none of them. And like none of them are really in production. TV side of things seems fine. Seems like they're going okay over there. But the film side of things, really since The Rise of Skywalker, has been like they intentionally took a break, but then it feels like the break has been longer than planned. So they announced Kevin Feige was going to produce a Star Wars movie. Yeah. They announced that Patty Jenkins, Wonder Woman's Patty Jenkins, was going to direct a Rogue Squadron movie. Yeah. Well, change of plans. Neither of those movies are happening. Those are both completely off the schedule, no longer in active development. So neither of those films are moving forward. We don't know what.
The CEO transfer kind of deal.
I think that there's probably an element of that. I mean, I think there's a few reasons. I think Rogue Squadron probably would have been in production right now if 1984 wasn't a huge shit show. I do think that there's a healthy element of that movie was so fucking bad that Disney probably reconsidered things. And I think that Patty Jenkins had like other scheduling things that she was trying to do. And so I think between the two of those things, it was just like, fuck this. Just who cares? Maybe they'll do another iteration of that at some point in the future. Who's to say? The Kevin Feige one, I'm guessing, is probably symptomatic of the man's way too fucking busy as it is with all his Marvel shit. Yeah. That like adding a Star Wars thing to his slate felt like a lot to take on. And there's some turmoil at Marvel Studios that we'll get to. I think that's just kind of one of those things of, we can more easily make movies with people that are accessible, who are able to dedicate more time to Star Wars specifically. I think that's probably the main biggest rationale for it. Is just they're not going to be able to make that movie anytime soon because he's so fucking busy. Maybe there's a future where he steps away, from Marvel Studios after he's fulfilled everything he's wanted to fulfill over there, and then he's like, all right, one last hurrah as a Star Wars movie, but that's some kind of, something down the pipeline. Yeah. The Rian Johnson trilogy, still, I guess, technically up in the air in terms of whether it's not officially shelved, it's just he's fucking busy. He's making more Knives Out. He's making more Poker Face. He's not going to get around to it anytime soon, but it's not technically completely off the table, I guess you might say. So like kind of like, where does that leave us? Like, when the fuck are we supposed to get a movie? The next one is scheduled to debut December of 2025. That's when they have a signpost on the calendar saying we're making a Star Wars movie. Okay. The most likeliest movie to enter that slot is the one that will be I guess directed by Taika Waititi and also apparently starring Taika Waititi himself. Yes, kind of a Jojo Rabbit situation as how they're likening it, of writing, starring, and directing in it. So that seems to be what is the next on the docket, and there's no word on what that movie is other than Taika Waititi's Star Wars, presumably not playing IG-11 or whatever, but I guess he could. I don't know. Maybe there's an IG-11 movie in there somewhere.
Oh man, what a movie! Could you imagine a droid-centric movie?
They could do it. That would be bold. We have a 5-year gap or whatever since the Rise of Skywalker, and we bring it back with fucking droids. Okay, all right. No one saw it coming.
We see you, Taika Waititi. Yeah, it'd be crazy.
And then on the other hand, the other movie that's kind of in active development right now is a movie that the screenplay was being written by Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson. They were attached to write the script. It's going to be set to be directed by Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, who directed a couple episodes of Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus and has worked on documentaries in the past. And the more recent update on that is Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson are out. They're gone.
Oh my gosh!
They I think they wrote a screenplay, but they've now departed the project, or they've at least written part of a screenplay. Who's to say? So they're bringing in Stephen Knight, who is the creator of the TV show Peaky Blinders, to write the screenplay for that movie. So presumably it's the same story or whatever plot points that they were starting with there, but now you have a new writer coming in to either rewrite or finish. I don't know exactly where it was in terms of its gestation, but here we go. They turned in a draft, so they're bringing someone in to basically rewrite it in some capacity.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a major rewrite or what, but it's now completely changed hands. Same director involved right now. But yeah, basically that's it. That's act development, and then Sean Levy, the Deadpool 3 guy who also did Free Guy and stuff, is still attached to a movie, but we really don't have any info on that. So we're in kind of like a holding pattern with like Star Wars, where it's
Are any of these the Alkalite?
That's a TV show. So the TV that's still going. I think that's either filming or set to film soon. So that's moving forward. All the TV stuff is pretty okay. You got the Mando kind of verse with Ahsoka coming up as well. Obviously, Mandalorian is actively airing, and then you have like the Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, a few other kind of things like that. So TV side they seem okay on. It's just the movies where it just is like, who the fuck knows what's going on at any given moment. It really changes week to week is kind of what it seems like. A lot of balls in the air, and they can't decide what to do with any of them. I don't know. It feels a bit rudderless to me.
A little bit. Yeah.
It doesn't. And I get, obviously you want to get it right. You don't want to just turn out dog shit. I think even Bob Iger has like spoken out in the past month or two, basically being like, Solo's box office failure kind of like was like a red flag for them of like, oh well, we can't just make everything under the sun. And like, I think that's all well and good, and it's not that Solo was a bad movie or anything like that, but like, I don't know, like Star Wars can work. Star Wars can be successful.
You just have a...
and there's a lot of talented people in Hollywood and outside of Hollywood probably too. It feels like they don't really have a vision. It doesn't seem like they have a vision for like how they want to approach it. And like, obviously they finished the mainline saga. They don't want to go to an episodes 10, 11, and 12. And I think that that's fair. I think that's all well and good. But yeah, just kind of, I don't know, do something. Do all High Republic stuff. Yeah. Do Old Republic stuff. Do something, Like, obviously, Mando's got you covered in that post-Return of the Jedi. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, there's so many talented people out there who fucking love Star Wars and I think would be happy to play in the sandbox. And It seems like they bring in 1 million people and they're like, that's not really right. And it's like, they can't all be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, someone's got an idea somewhere, Well, it's like they're so afraid to commit to something that they can't get anything off the ground.
It's a perfect example. Star Wars Visions. Take one of those, make the Ronin movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck it. Yeah.
That'd be fucking cool, right?
Yeah. Anyway, Star Wars is a bit of a mess, is what it sounds like on the movie side of things. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe they'll right the ship. I'm happy to watch Star Wars movies. Make an interesting Star Wars movie. Just fucking make the goddamn thing is what I say. Like, give it a crack.
Is it a Star Wars movie? You're gonna have my money.
Not everything's gonna be hugely successful, and and you have to evaluate things with somewhat of a critical eye. But I don't know. Try something on. Rogue Squadron could be really fucking cool. Doesn't have to have Patty Jenkins attached.
Could have Tom Cruise.
Yeah, just do Top Gun again. That's fine. Top Gun already did Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Pay it back. Pay it back. Just do Top Gun. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yeah.
To this, probably this is a little bit more straightforward in terms of a headline. Jenna Ortega, not content with dominating everything, apparently, is circling a role in a Beetlejuice sequel that would reunite her with Tim Burton, who she's worked on the Wednesday show on Netflix. She would apparently play the daughter of Lydia, Winona Ryder's character from the first Beetlejuice. Okay. Michael Keaton would, of course, return. Because you can't do Beetlejuice without Michael Keaton. No, I refuse to believe that that's a possibility. And Tim Burton is also apparently going to direct. So they're eyeing a May or June start date for shooting, and it's been several decades, obviously, since the first one came out. So maybe it's time.
God, I haven't seen that movie in forever. Maybe it's time for a bonus episode on Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice is a fucking banger of a movie.
Yeah,
that's a great fucking film. It's weird. It's batshit. but it's just, I don't know.
Hilarious.
Deo, the fucking Deo scene, man. I love that first Beetlejuice.
I love the one when he's sitting inside it looks like he's sitting inside the DMV, you know?
Yeah. He's got the ticket and it's like fucking like 5 million, you know, in line.
He's sitting next to the guy with the shrunken head.
He switches the ticket with him and it gets fucked up somehow. I don't remember exactly what happens, but
it's a good one. That would be a fun bonus episode.
Yes. I would happily revisit Beetlejuice, which is to say, like, I'm not mad about them doing a Beetlejuice sequel. It's not a franchise that's been run to the ground. Like, yeah, okay, everything here sounds pretty great to me. Jenna Ortega's been crushing it. She's in Scream 6, which is another one that we haven't watched yet and won't cover on this episode, almost certainly. We're on this podcast, not this episode, definitely. But yeah, you know, cool. Beetlejuice 2, bring it on, is what I say. So I'm excited to see where that goes. I hope that all comes together quite nicely.
Yeah.
All right. So now we'll pivot to some drama. Okay. And I don't mean drama, a dramatic television show. We'll get there, obviously. So on the Marvel side of things, a lot of changes happening. So Victoria Alonso was a producer at Marvel Studios who had been with the studio since its inception, basically, all the way since they made Iron Man 1, through even some movies that are coming out, through all the movies that are coming out this year, basically. She has been fired from her role at Marvel Studios.
Fired?
And it's terminated. And it's been kind of a weird sort of ongoing saga where we don't really know exactly what the fuck the deal was. And so Disney is basically saying that she breached her contract by producing the film Argentina in 1985, which was like a Oscar-nominated foreign film. Apparently, she wasn't allowed to work on, movies for a competing studio, and she didn't get permission. She was asked to stop working on it. She said, "I'm going to continue working on it." I don't, and
okay,
and so that's Disney's version of the story. I think she is saying that, well, no, I had permission from Disney, and she's contemplating litigation, as a result of this termination. It really seems like a huge shit show. And then there's also kind of been this undercurrent where basically one of her major roles at Marvel Studios was being in charge of the visual effects and post production. Okay. And at the time of her firing, we're now in we've been hearing it for months and months that visual effects teams are not pleased, with Marvel Studios stuff. They're not given enough time. It's a lot of crunch. Yeah, and the end result is still movies that don't look very good overall.
Yeah.
Like Ant-Man, right? Where it's like, this is fine, but this is not Avatar. This is not fucking Avatar: The Way of Water that we're looking at by any stretch of the imagination, where if you give a team quite literally years to tinker with, the technology and make it work, it looks incredible. And then if you give them a month and change shit on the fly and say, actually, this should be this way, then you get Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, where it's like, none of it was like outright bad. I mean, obviously MODOK has been kind of like people are like, why does he look like that? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know, to reiterate our comments, I don't know there's a way to do him in a way that doesn't look fucked.
But MODOK, by even taking him out, look at the. But
just the environments. The environments,
exactly.
It's all just generic and kind of bland, right. And just VFXy, not in a way that feels like you're enhancing things, like you're taking a practical bloater suit and throwing some CG elements on top of it to make it more believable. It's like, no. The bloater is CG. Everything that he's standing on is CG. The people around him are CG, and it's like a lot of that where it's just like, this is just getting like lazy almost in some ways, and you're not giving people enough time to at least make it feel semi believable or plausible. You know what I mean? So a lot of, again, the undercurrent was basically like, well, she sucks at her job, so maybe that's part of why this happened, and that was kind of before the whole contract breach thing came out. People that interact with her on set say that she's, very professional and supportive. There's also more recent stories that are talking about how she clashed with Marvel because they were trying to censor, Pride references for foreign releases of Ant-Man. And so, like, it really feels like, I mean,
just a clusterfuck of
just a ton of shit. Like where it's just like, I don't know if this has been like an ongoing saga internally, and then they're just like, fuck it, you're out, and they're just looking at, you made that movie. That's a technical breach of your contract. We don't owe you anything. Like that kind of is almost what it feels like, where it's like we've scoured your contract and we've decided this is why you're terminated. It's legally enforceable, and and we have a legally defensible version of it, and we don't owe you any severance now.
Right.
I don't know. It's very messy, but it's and apparently through all this, Kevin Feige is kind of just like, I'm not going to do anything. It's not really my place to back her or to, I guess, back, Disney. It's just like, I'm sidestepping this kind of thing. Like, I'm out of this equation, which I think is fair enough, Well, it's like, you can either side with someone and get fired too, or you can just put your fingers in your ears and you're like, I'll figure this out once this all blows over. But yeah, she's heavily involved in a lot of things. So I do wonder, does it make a difference, moving forward with the movies that we see next year and beyond? There's a little bit of a new sheriff in town with Bob replacing the new Bob / old Bob replacing other Bob. And I think that they're tightening the coin purses a little bit at Disney. They've already announced some layoffs and such, and so maybe this is just like kind of part of that. Of kind of a general restructuring to be a little bit more profitable. And, if you're feuding with someone, maybe it's just not worth the fucking effort anymore. And so you get rid of them. I don't know. It's messy. It's fucking messy.
I don't know. She's got it's over 17 years there though.
But yeah, it's right. Shit. It's a big deal for her to not be part of it anymore. Obviously it's not really a name that we would ever talk about on this show, but producers, they do things behind the scenes. They're obviously integral to making things happen. So yeah, I'm curious to see if this has a discernible effect, positive or negative, moving forward. We'll see. And we'll see what the full story develops out to and whether litigation gets filed, blah, blah, blah.
This is a couple weeks old here?
It's messy.
A week old?
Yeah. I think, a couple of weeks probably, roughly.
I'd be interested to see where this goes, because, there's a lot of there's a lot of pointing fingers in this. It's interesting.
Definitely. Yes, it's... it feels a little Scarlett Johansson-y, in terms of that whole saga, where it's just like, Disney just can't help. And that was other Bob, so we'll see.
Bob.
Old Bob / new Bob has also fired Ike Perlmutter, the Marvel Entertainment chairman, who's the big Trumpy who didn't like women, who didn't want women-led films at Marvel Studios, who Kevin Feige was like, I'm going to fucking quit Marvel Studios and go work for DC or somewhere else if I have to keep reporting to this old fucking loser. And so that piece of shit has finally been sacked. He's basically the cheapest fuck who basically has been in charge of Marvel for like forever. Or he's been basically like an executive at Marvel, like the Marvel, not Marvel Studios, Marvel
Who's
Entertainment,
this guy?
Comics, etc. Ike Perlmutter, and so yeah, he's gone. It's just another kind of thing of old Bob / new Bob, making some changes. They're folding the whole Marvel Entertainment unit into like other parts of Disney. That doesn't affect Marvel Studios because it's a separate division. But yeah. This is the guy that didn't want toys of female characters because they quote unquote wouldn't sell, that sort of shit. He's just a raging racist, sexist asshole who happened to be rich enough to end up in this role. He bought Marvel as well. He had a toy company that he controlled that he bought Marvel in 1998. Oh, okay. Helped orchestrate the sale to Disney, which ultimately has led to his undoing. So, obviously he's made millions of dollars in the interim, but joke's on you, buddy. I don't know. Anyway, good riddance.
We'll see what Bob Iger did. This new Bob. We'll see what new old Bob does for everything.
I think he seems like he's trying to try on a different strategy. I think when he was on initially, it felt like a lot of spending and a lot of like, investment in Disney Plus and shit like that. And it does feel like there's been a little bit more of a deliberate like curtailing of like, let's just not go hog wild with what we're spending and what we're doing. Yeah. And obviously the layoffs with the workforce is never great. Certainly for those folks that are involved who are losing their jobs, but it all seems to be, I guess, in service of making a corporation more profitable.
Right.
Disney obviously should make plenty of money, but obviously they spend a fuck ton of money too, so you can kind of see the push and pull of how that could be. So I don't know.
We'll see what happens.
I'll leave that to old Bob / new Bob to figure out. So anyway, a lot of turmoil. Marvel Studios, whatever. And last but not least, certainly not least, more turmoil is that Jonathan Majors, who obviously played Kang in Ant-Man and is expected to play Kang the Conqueror and his variants moving forward in the MCU is the big bad. He wears questionable attire to the Oscars and such, carries a mug around with him. And he got arrested and charged with assault and harassment in New York after what police described as a domestic dispute with his girlfriend. The woman was taken to the hospital after experiencing minor injuries to her head and neck. The initial details were not great. They were not great for Jonathan Majors. His attorney has come out and he's totally innocent. He's actually the victim. The woman's recanted. There's video evidence and witnesses that support his account that he's innocent. We're in the middle of legal proceedings right now. It's entirely possible these charges get dropped. It's entirely possible he's innocent. He's legally innocent until proven guilty. Okay. But it's a shit show for everyone right now because we don't really know how this resolves. I don't really put stock in someone recanting. I am a lawyer. I deal with enough things of this nature to know that someone recanting or going up on a witness stand and saying, like, I lied about all that, they're usually pressured to do that. Or they feel inclined to do it, so they don't, because they feel remorseful for reporting in the first place. So that doesn't really mean a lot to me. The video evidence and shit like that, we don't know anything about that. Different. Like, that seems like, okay, all right, well, I'd be curious to see what that looks like.
Let's see it.
Because that really could be exonerating in some way or not that helpful. I don't know. It's a shitty situation. Obviously,
what's more is
particularly for the woman, for
people come
him,
out of the woodwork.
Right, and then there have been people like, I knew this guy sucked all along. And it's like, okay, well, is that really helpful? I don't know, but I don't know. This is an ongoing proceeding. Oh, he's been in these fucking ads for the Army. The Army pulled the ads.
It's real shitty.
We'll see how it plays out. I mean, DC had their fucking shit sandwich with Ezra Miller. Marvel's got Jonathan Majors on their hands now, where it's like, Jesus Christ, this guy's supposed to be your fucking, villain, for the next saga of the MCU. And like, okay, on one hand, it's the multiverse saga, so you can absolutely recast if worst comes to worst. But you don't want to do that. You know what I mean? You don't want to
he's a good actor.
You don't want to do that. He's a really good actor. He's been good so far, and it feels like, I don't know, man. Like, that's just a tough position to be in. I think everyone's in a holding pattern right now of like, okay, let's see how this all kind of shakes out. But I do have to imagine Kevin Feige, he's already a little balding. More hair is falling out by the day.
He's just sweating. Jesus Christ, everybody
everything
get your
going
shit
on
together.
over there is like, gee, for fuck's sake, just he's
going to go back to closing his door and to his office.
Like,
going to take a vacation.
I don't know what happened. We don't know what happened, but like, for it to get this far feels like it's not good that we're here at all. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
that much is true.
It doesn't mean that it happened. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen. But it's like this is, it's gotten far enough that he was arrested and charged. Like, that's a little bit of something. And I think a lot of it is like, it's just kind of police policy of just like, if there's a report of this nature, you treat it seriously and you go from it. And I think that's the right approach for all this. But it's messy, man. It's just it's messy and it's bad news and it's just I don't know.
I mean, because on one hand you have to protect the person that's been battered. You know what I mean? Naturally, if somebody beat the shit out of somebody or whatever, fuck that guy, throw him away. You know what I mean? Put him, right. Yep. At the same time, if that's not the case. Oh man, that guy's career is getting fucked up right now. That's bad.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's messy.
It's no good.
It's obviously worth talking about because we ourselves have very much been on the Jonathan Majors train between Ant-Man and Creed, and this sucks to see. Just not great, Bob. So we'll see where it goes. It's ongoing proceedings. I'm sure there's more to the story to come. And we'll be following it, I think, just to see how it all shakes out, because
sure, yeah.
I think it's going to have ripple effects depending on how things move along. If Disney fired James Gunn over some shitty tweets in his past, I'm not really sure that they're gonna. I'm not really gonna sure that they're gonna feel comfortable with domestic violence charges if they end up sticking.
Not.
Like that feels.
I wouldn't.
That feels like Let's move on and
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's not the image we want to maintain,
Right.
So
yeah, it's fucking Disney. So yeah. Anyway, those are the headlines. Obviously, a lot going on there. I think we actually probably had more things to talk about in the headlines than the top news, which is really just the trailers. I should just rebrand it to trailers at this point. So anyway, trailers. We have a official trailer for season 4 of Barry, which premieres April 16th, which is way fucking sooner than I wanted it to be, because I'm still super behind. But it's great for people like yourself who are caught up.
Yeah.
And the 4th season is the final season of Barry. It's been revealed. So it's winding down. I didn't watch this trailer because I didn't want to totally spoil myself on things. I saw the thumbnail, so I at least know one thing about it. But that's okay. I have no one to blame but myself. I have started season 2 of Barry, but I'm only one episode in. So I finally moved on to new for myself Barry. But anyway, what do you think? You looking forward to 4th and final season of Barry?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that it's done. But I say it. I've said it many, many, many times. Like my shows to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. I want a story, right? So
4 seasons is a solid run.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for a show that's so compact and punchy, right? Like I mean, you can fly through a season in no time. So
30-minute episodes, 8 episode seasons. It's pretty tight. Yeah.
You can get in and out of that. So I have full reason to expect that this is a very deliberate ending, and it's going to feel complete, and it's going to feel good. So I love Barry. Barry, I think you turned me on to Barry.
I did, and then I turned my back on Barry. But I've turned back around. I'm now facing Barry yet again, slowly but surely.
Barry is very, very much my shit. I love it very much. It's wildly hilarious, very dark. And this looks like it's the same thing. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Bill Hader directing the entire fucking season.
Jeez. The ones he directed in the last season were the most dark.
Yeah.
So we'll see what Bill Hader has to say.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I just got to put more time aside for it. I mean, quite honestly, and we'll get to when we get to catching up later in the episode, but like, I spent a lot of time playing The Last of Us and watching The Last of Us that I haven't really had a lot of time for anything else. Now that obviously I'm good on both fronts, they'll probably clear a little bit more room for me to watch other things, but Barry's definitely on those things. I finished that first season. Now I'm in the second season. I don't think that I'll be able to catch up before April 16th, but there's an outside chance that I could catch up around the time that season 4 wraps up, roughly. So that's my new target, is to be able to at least watch the final season around the time that it ends. That would be ideal. So April 16th is when the final season of Barry premieres. So everyone can look forward to that. But on April 7th in theaters, we're getting a film about fake not Bob Ross. Not Bob Ross is what this movie is.
Okay. I was a little confused because it's like, man, Bob Ross is a little perverse. Like he looks like he's... This isn't about Bob Ross. So his name's not Bob Ross?
This is a movie called Taint. It's Owen Wilson starring as Carl Nargle, who is a Bob Ross inspired painter, down to the dress, the hair, the style of painting. But in all other respects, this is a completely fictional story as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
I will say, I put this trailer in there, in the script, I should say, before actually watching it, because I thought it was a Bob Ross movie. And then I watched the trailer, and I'm like, this is not a Bob Ross movie. I think I'm disappointed this is not a Bob Ross movie. And maybe, they fucking dressed him up as Bob Ross, basically. I feel like I'm not really to blame here.
No.
But it's a little odd, to just basically take his likeness and then being like, he's actually kind of a shitbag in this totally fictional thing.
Who the fuck are you? This review bombed this shit. I think I'm going to review bomb this shit. If I'm part of
Bob Ross's estate, I'm looking at this with some, fucking,
with some shit. Yeah. There's some defamation fucking going on here.
Can I sue him for this? It's not even there's not what's the biggest difference? He's got an Owen Wilson nose. He doesn't look like Bob Ross anymore.
That's it, and yeah. Anyways, I was the whole way through. I was like, oh man, I didn't know Bob Ross's name was this whatever Carl. I didn't know his real name was fucking Carl.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm glad to hear that it's not a Bob Ross movie. At the same time, like you, who the fuck kind of shits on Bob Ross's image? Why?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It feels a little gross. I'm not I don't know that. I don't think it looked bad. I think it looked fine, but I just think it's just fucking absolutely bizarre to take Bob Ross and be like, look, but he sucks, and it's like, well, I don't want that. I don't want Bob Ross that sucks. I want lovable. We'll just put a happy little tree right here. Just a happy little tree.
That's all you want. I don't know, man.
We'll just put a little bush right here. Yeah, that's what I want. 2 hours of that shit. Mm-hmm. I don't want 2 hours of drama centered around some Bob Ross wannabe. Come on,
Bob Ross actually experiencing life in Bob Ross in traffic, and him just being passive.
Wasn't Bob Ross in the fucking military? Give me that fucking movie.
Right?
Yeah, Bob Ross goes to war and comes back a motherfucking pacifist making paintings. I want that movie. I don't know if that's already a movie or a documentary. I know there's some Bob Ross show or whatever on Netflix, but give me that. I'm not interested in this. I want
with you. 110% with you. If it's not there, we should make it. Somebody, maybe we can get the lady that got fired to produce our movie.
Yeah, she's probably free. Maybe she'll get some money in litigation from Disney that she can use to finance the movie. We'll get the all quiet guy to score it.
That's it.
So it'll start with the all quiet type of score, and then once it gets to pacifist, it just flips on its head, and it's I don't know, beautiful day in the neighborhood shit.
That's it. What a movie. Tour de force.
We'll title it Bob.
That's it. That's the name of the Oh, it's perfect.
Anyway, look forward to Bob coming to cinemas 2025, late 2025, probably. Alongside Thor 4 Valhalla, of course. The people weren't satisfied with Thor Love and Thunder, so they're redoing the fourth entry as Thor 4 Valhalla.
Make a... let me see if we can... When's April 1st? Saturday. I don't have long. Maybe I can make an April Fool's poster.
Yeah, you could do it.
For Bob.
Could do it. If you feel like it, I support it. All right. 2 more trailers. A couple Disney things to round things out before we go back into sad things. The Little Mermaid. We have an official trailer for it. It bizarrely debuted during the Oscars, but it's also online on the YouTubes and such. And it's an extended look at it. We get first looks. Well, we get extended looks at Halle Bailey as Ariel. First looks at Daveed Diggs as Sebastian, Awkwafina as Scuttle, Jacob Tremblay as Flounder, Javier Bardem as King Triton, and of course, Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. So, what do you think? What do you think about the official trailer of the Little Mermaid? Are you looking forward to this one?
Music sounds good.
Music does sound good. I agree.
I would say that I am. Ursula does sound like Ursula, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah,
with the little.
I feel like
words that we got.
they largely concealed the Melissa McCarthy-ness of it. Like
Yes.
you kind of see her from the side a little bit. Like, well, it looks like Melissa McCarthy. So I'm not. I guess I'm ambivalent still at this point. Like, I'm not convinced,
No.
but I am not thinking, oh God, Jesus fucking Christ, you know, the way they did Jafar or whatever in Aladdin. You know, that
and
sort
so
of
it's funny you
reaction.
bring that up. The visuals of the landscapes and everything else, I'm kind of getting some Aladdin vibes.
Yeah.
It looks kind of, the way everything's kind of like layered within the frame, kind of looks disconnected. And it's probably one of those things, like once you're in it for like 15 minutes, you're probably totally fine.
Get used to it. Yeah.
But on an initial impression is the CG in this movie does not look it does not look, it's not the style that I would like.
Ant-Man styled.
It looks Ant-Man styled. But instead of having a full body, you only have half a body to work with. You know what I mean? So
it's kind of got a digital glossy sort of sheen to everything, I feel like.
It does. Pretty heavily too. It's pretty.
You know, and obviously it's like a mostly underwater film, and you know that's obviously creates its own set of challenges in terms of bringing that to life.
And see, the only argument here is now the argument is, well, so was fucking Avatar.
Right. They did it pretty okay there. It seemed fine. They seem to know what they're doing over there. I think it's just different approaches and in filmmaking and time, you know, production cycles and stuff. And, you know, and a lot of these movies, it's like, you know, you do it this way and that's good enough. And I think that that's how they look at a lot of these. And I think that it looks fine, but I do agree that visually it doesn't wow me. And I think that, you know, for all the flaws that I had with that Lion King movie, visually I didn't have any complaints with it. You know what I mean? And I feel like with these other Disney ones, like this one, I think the music and I think like the way that they're retelling the story, like I'm excited to see how they approach it. Whereas with the Lion King, it was like, do something different, except for adding a tumbleweed that flies across the screen for 5 minutes.
I do enjoy the Caribbean. It seems like it's got a Caribbean vibe or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which seems pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think it looks fine. I'll watch it. I think it'll probably be entertaining, and I think that the music will be good, and that might just be enough for me to enjoy it. That might just be enough.
Absolutely.
I don't see anything that makes it feel like, oh man, like I'm glad that they're making a live action version of this. Like I'm not seeing anything that makes me think this is going to usurp or surpass the animated film in any way.
Right.
Which has been true for all of these for the most part, where it's just like, this is fine. This is a fine addition. It doesn't replace it. It doesn't really stand alongside it, but it's okay for it to exist in this incarnation for the most part. I think that's kind of how I looked at a lot of those. Except for almost The Lion King, where it's like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and I don't fucking care. You know? So,
Right.
like, give me something different. But anyway, it is coming to theaters May 26th. So we got a couple months till it drops. And, you know, okay.
That's okay.
I think we'll give it a look. Almost certainly. I like the animated film. I'm looking forward to seeing a new version of it.
I do like Javier Bardem looks pretty funny too.
He looks good. He's got the same hair floating in water technology from his Pirates character, which is excellent. They just were able to reuse the assets there, save some money.
You are a mermaid. I like that guy.
Please. I never watched that movie. Should I?
Somebody turns
not.
into crabs, I think, at some point.
That's what I think. That's in one of them, at least, for sure. All right, last but not least, and I think I already used that segue, but I'm going to use it again. You know what? Fuck you for criticizing me for using it. What? You didn't criticize me? I'm the one that brought it up? Fuck you for pointing that out. Wait, hold on. What am I doing here? Just getting mad at myself. We got like a little 30-second...
Second season of Iron Fist.
Is that what this is? As a little 30-second tease of a new Disney Plus show called American Born Chinese. Not a whole lot to go off here, other than basically it being like look at all these motherfuckers in it. AKA, it's the cast of Everything Everywhere All at Once except for Jamie Lee Curtis. And they have to change it next time they put out material. It's like Oscar nominated. It's like, got to change that. Oscar nominated. Got to change that. Oscar nominated. Well, I guess you have to keep that one. Thanks, Jamie. I fucking dare you. I fucking dare you take this award from Stephanie Hsu. But anyway, of the little that we saw here, does it appeal to you? Are you saying Iron Fist season 2? We already got Iron Fist season 2 for the record, in case you forgot.
I have forgotten.
Are you saying that in a pejorative sense, or what are you thinking?
Is this Everything All at Once? Everything Everywhere All at Once is the television show for Everything Everywhere All at Once, picked up by Disney Plus?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's the cast. It's got some sensibilities that it shares.
I mean, and it says it's the director
of Shang-Chi. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's some,
there's a lot of
doorways to heaven.
Here. Yeah.
The whole heaven thing is a Iron Fist reference.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe they'll fight dragons. Off screen, because we can't have that on screen.
I don't know what this is, but I'm into it.
Michelle Yeoh's got the Doctor Strange, fucking multiple hands springing up while she does the spell type shit.
That is my favorite thing ever. I don't know what it is about that imagery, but I love it. Especially when it happens with like a snap.
Yeah.
And their arms shoot out.
Arms everywhere.
It's fucking cool.
I don't know what to make of this one, in the sense that this footage didn't really give me a lot. Like, visually kind of interesting. Some of it looks kind of flat in TV. And then cast is obviously awesome. Like, they were fantastic in Everything Everywhere. I'd love to see Michelle Yeoh, Kiwi Kwan, and Stephanie Hsu and stuff together. I loved Shang-Chi. Actually, I think it's one of the better MCU entries in the past several years. So Destin Daniel Cretton's involvement feels good. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. They announced May 24th is when it's coming to Disney Plus. I'm sure we'll get a more extended look before then. Maybe we can revisit this conversation, and once we get maybe a better idea of like, well, what is it actually about? Like, what's going on here? But there's enough to intrigue me here. Cast alone, visuals, Destin Daniel Cretton, like, all feel like good things that will hopefully amount to something good as well. So that's how I feel about it. Totally. May 24th. We shall find out. And there you have it for the news. So, are you ready to talk about The Last of Us?
Are you ever ready to talk about The Last of Us?
It's a good question.
I guess I am. But, I'm as ready as I can be.
I mean,
that's what we do.
We're here tonight, I think we should just do it. So let me set this up. The Last of Us. It's a 9-episode season. First season. All episodes streaming on HBO Max. Show's created by Craig Mazin of Chernobyl fame and Neil Druckmann. That dude. It is based off of the video game The Last of Us from Naughty Dog. It stars Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. Has quite a few guest stars throughout the series, including, but not limited to, Anna Torv, Gabriel Luna, Nick Offerman, Murray Bartlett, Lamar Johnson, Melanie Linsky, and Storm Reed. And The Last of Us, for those who may not know, after a global pandemic destroys civilization, a hardened survivor takes charge of a 14-year-old girl who may be humanity's last hope. So yeah, I think we can do non-spoilers, obviously, to start, and recommendation, and then we'll do a big full spoiler deep dive and maybe try to go, if not episode by episode, kind of plot beat by plot beat in terms of, it's a show that jumps settings a lot and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of maybe the trajectory to try to do with our coverage of The Last of Us. So it's a show that you experienced week to week. It's based off a video game that you played but didn't complete back in the day, back when the original game came out in like 2013. So you had a little bit of familiarity with The Last of Us, but I imagine some of it felt pretty new to you, the experience of watching this show. So it's a show that you've talked about a little bit here and there on the pod as you've been watching, but I want to hear what your overall thoughts are on it now that all 9 episodes have come and gone, and you've had an opportunity to consume them. So what are your feelings on The Last of Us?
I'd like to begin this with I typed in Craig Mazin on my in Safari, to kind of like see what he's done and this and that. And there was an article that popped up, and this article is from Jezebel.com. The headline of this article is "Fucking Craig Mazin, an appreciation of Ted Cruz's college roommate." Published in
Another fun fact.
December 4th of 2015. There's a quote here, says from Craig. I remember very specifically that he had a book in Spanish, and the title was Karl Marx a Satanist? And I thought, who is this person? Even in 1988, he was politically extreme in a way that was surprising to me. Yeah,
there's a bit on the Wikipedia article for Craig Mazin that says that he openly despises Cruz on a personal level and frequently disparages him on Twitter, calling the U.S. senator, quote unquote, a huge asshole.
It's awesome. It's very. I can't believe that's real life. I really can't.
Well, I mean, I think almost the crazier thing is this is the guy that went from writing Scary Movie 3, 4, The Hangover Part 2 and 3 to doing fucking Chernobyl and Last of Us. That boggles the mind as well.
It's true, yes.
Just truly, truly wild. But yes, fucking Ted Cruz's roommate. Or, yeah, I mean, just...
It's bonkers.
Small world, right?
Yeah, I guess it is a small world. I guess that's just how you have to do that. Yeah. Anyways, so my experience with the show. I am a frequent watcher of American Idol. American Idol would usually start, I think, before this show airs on HBO. And so my Sunday routine for like the past however many weeks the show aired on for was I'm going to watch American Idol, and then I'm going to watch The Last of Us. Needless to say, the past like 2 or 3 months of my existence, Sunday night, which is my one day, usually my one day off,
just pure whiplash.
Just it ended, and I mean it's just crying for probably at least 3 hours every Sunday, in one capacity or another, either tears of joy, tears of sadness from American Idol, whatever, and then straight into the weight of The Last of Us. There is some deeply human stories told in The Last of Us. Despite its like trappings of being like a post-apocalyptic zombie flick or zombie show, the stories that it's really cool. Because when you peel back, like what the zombies and everything do is they kind of allow you to peel away all like the noise of like the modern stuff, right? The post-apocalyptic, setting allows you to peel away. Okay, I got to go to my 9 to 5. You know what I mean?
Right. No jobs, no cell phones, no bullshit. It's just people are here to survive, and so they will do what they have to. And this is people put to the ultimate test of you have to survive by any means necessary. Yeah.
And you have your interpersonal connections to people and family and just what it is to be a person, or what it is to be morally sound, and like what is morally sound whenever it is post-apocalyptic, like what
I say by any means necessary, and it's like, well, yeah, you're going to fight against the people that are infected that would infect you and kill you. You can also be a gigantic asshole to people around you. You could kill people because they might be a threat. It's like how far do you take things to the extreme, in terms of what your moral compass is. Like, can you live as a morally just person, or is it really just fuck you, got mine?
And then how do you live with those things?
Right.
How you live with those live with the consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into these episodes.
What is society like without society, basically?
Yeah. And then, like, you know, how do people like recoup, and how do they establish a baseline for like normality? You know what I mean? What does that look like? And how do they achieve it? At what lengths do you go to make a baseline for everybody? You know what I mean? And what's that look like? I mean, there's a whole. It's a really, really, really fucking deep show, and it's really heavy. So that's one aspect, right? Heavy storytelling, heart-wrenching, just deeply, just enriching stories. They're just rich with the way they're told, and the depth at which they're told, and how they're told. You know, it's just really, really, really good week to week episodes. They fit together very nicely. The pacing is deliberate and heavy. I mean, it just feels just like Chernobyl. I mean, it's bam, 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 season 2, right?
Yeah.
It's and that feels really nice. In a world where we have 20 episode counts and you have filler episodes and this and that, the episode count. And go ahead.
To draw a comparison with, I think, an obvious competitor, or at least show that on the surface I think is relatively similar, is The Walking Dead. Where,
definitely.
You know, you have a collapsed society, collapsed civilization because of a huge, you know, outbreak thing. And like, they're not quite literally zombies here in a traditional sense, but for all intents and purposes, they are zombies nonetheless. And so you have kind of two similar type of shows, and they have very different sensibilities, very different approaches to storytelling and pacing, and you know, and one respects your time and one doesn't. You know what I mean? Like that, you really feel the difference. And one feels like it's going to drag on for 30 fucking seasons, and one feels like, well, there's only 2 games. Maybe we'll go a little past that and fill in some gaps and change things here and there along the way. But there's probably going to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. You know, and that's maybe the difference between those two shows.
So much more rewarding when you're told a story.
How they
like
approach
this.
their storytelling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think
to be clear, neither of us have watched all of The Walking Dead because
no, it's too
why
much.
Why would you? Because it's just too much. No, and there's like 19 spinoffs. Like, no, I'm sorry, no.
Yeah. So, the pacing, the storytelling, the characters, the acting, the actors and actresses in this show are just fucking aces. They feel like, I mean, you really do, like, the second you turn on the show, it feels like you are viewing a window into another world. I mean, it's transportive. Like, I mean, the production values, the cinematography is fucking gorgeous. Specifically, there's a couple of episodes that really stand out, I think, and I think that this show does a really, really, really good job of cinematography as a way to convey the story, as a way to propel it forward. I think it does a really good job of that, specifically with like the. I think that Anna brought this up in. What she thought of the German flick, All Is Quiet on the Western Front. Mm-hmm. How she talked about the juxtaposition of like the serenity of nature and then like the brutality of war, and how they're kind of overlapped together in that show. I thought that was really present in a lot of episodes in this show.
Right. I mean, you have like literal urban decay where cities have been bombed out. And then, you know, natural plant life and wildlife has kind of taken over those areas in some ways. And
in a lot of ways,
beautified it in some ways. Right. Yeah.
It's more peaceful than it ever was. I mean,
right.
A Chicago that's overgrown with shit, with, you know, nature and whatnot, is much more peaceful and everything, but at the same time, it's much more dangerous. But then is it
Sure. Haunting in some ways too, but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of really good stuff. I was thoroughly blown away from the score, the acting, just like the production values and like the coherence with like everybody on board at one time. Everybody seemed to be all on the same page.
Could you think of any other way to describe this show? If you had to,
I could
come up with a snappy phrase, maybe.
I would say that this show is probably one of the best definitions of tour de force.
It's the Taurus of the DeForces.
I think so. I think that it tells a cohesive story. It tells it by just force of excellence. Not only force of excellence, but just like fucking punchy, like it beats you down in the ground. Like it really, it has you coming back every week to just hope. There's hope. And that's another thing too.
Well, I think it's not just
beat you
making
down.
you sad for the sake of making you sad and making you, feel like shit. There's still
you share
a thrust.
The hope of the characters.
There's still a narrative thrust that keeps you there, that keeps you rooting for people, and rooting for things for these good things to happen. And sometimes you get nice things that happen here and there. Those moments are usually fleeting. It's that kind of world. It's that kind of show. It's that kind of story. But
yet
you still have
day.
that desire. Yeah.
Yeah. A tour de force show, man. It's nothing short of incredible. Which is, I would say that, so Chernobyl's kind of like a biopic, I guess, right? It's not really like a...
Well, they're obviously very different. Chernobyl is kind of a semi-fictionalized account of a real-life event. I say semi-fictionalized, just, taking certain characters and I think, adding dialogue and stuff to kind of fill in the gaps from what we know about a thing that happened, to make it dramatically interesting as a miniseries and stuff like that. But it's kind of a short and sweet kind of thing. This is a little bit different, where it's a little more drawn out in the sense that it's just longer, in terms of episode count. But it is, it's based on it's a fictional story. It's based on a fictional thing, and it's just kind of different.
And with that being said, I think that it's got to be one of the best things I've ever watched. It's.
And you probably said the same thing about Chernobyl.
I think I did. Yeah, Chernobyl. I think I
think that was probably our number one show of that year that it came out. It was.
And it still sticks around.
Ridiculous show.
Like it's still like one of my favorite shows. Chernobyl is, but this is like if somebody asked you what's your favorite show, well, I would say, well, Chernobyl is my favorite show for a group of reasons. But then I think that probably Last of Us it comes into the discussion at some point too. This is it's truly incredible. I've gone on. You rambled a little bit. You just finished it. What'd you think?
Well, I have several different threads I can pull on in terms of where I want to talk about things, or I think I'll start with just kind of hitting on the Chernobyl stuff, the comparison there, because Chernobyl is for anyone that hasn't seen it, it's like 5 episodes. It's an incredibly compact miniseries, incredibly impactful miniseries that tells obviously the story of this real life tragedy, basically horror movie because of people's failings and ignorance and just bureaucracy failing and stuff. And it's just incredibly interesting as a story, as a real life event, but it's brought to life in such a magnificent way with incredible performances from Stellan Skarsgård and others. But the incredible production values on that show, just truly one of the best like miniseries ever created. No hyperbole. It really is. It's just that good. The Last of Us is like taking the Chernobyl production values and like sensibilities, and then strapping it onto a really interesting and impactful fictional story.
Yes.
And so it almost feels like Chernobyl made you feel bad, in the ways that I'm like, oh my God, this actually happened kind of ways. The Last of Us, it has a little bit more joy to it because you can kind of detach yourself in some ways where it's just like, this is incredibly gripping. At the same time, I know that this is not really real, and there's obviously the element to it where it's just like, oh, post-pandemic society, and it's like, well, thank God our pandemic didn't look like this, glad it wasn't a fungal infection that, that fucked things up for a few years there, and obviously still has some repercussions, but not like this, obviously. It has the kind of eeriness, associated with it because of that. But I think that just by virtue of it being kind of this fictional world that you're allowed to live in and fictional characters that you're allowed to like kind of fall in love with, I think that's something that really sets it apart from Chernobyl. Chernobyl has a more clinical look at it, and it's like,
that's right. That's a good point.
Like this is just how it went down, and these were the players that were involved, and then they bring in someone else, to deal with like the cleanup, blah, blah, blah. Like each episode kind of handles a different facet. Here you get to spend so much time with your two characters of Joel and Ellie that you just can't help but fall in love with both of these characters, and neither character is perfect, and they do things that are questionable, and they do things that make you think, oh man, but you can't help but be drawn to them because they feel like they're fighting for something really, really worthwhile and impactful in this world where, it sucks, it's hard to fight through everything in this world. So I don't know. I think taking those Chernobyl production values and putting it on this like fictional story, behind characters that you can just kind of come to know and love, it really feels like an awesome marriage of just,
it's true,
just like a perfect storm kind of thing, right? Like really of an incredible story, an incredibly compelling story. You have amazing actors, and then you have it brought to life in such an amazing way where it's clear that HBO did not skimp. $500,000 bloater suits included. Every penny goes to something, and it shows throughout because the landscapes feel real, because the clickers, the infected feel real. They feel like real threats. The people feel like real people. None of it feels inauthentic in any way. It's gripping because because you are just kind of immersed in this world and this story that it's telling you.
Yeah.
So my hat goes off. All my hats go off to the crew behind it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Craig Mazin, Neil Druckmann receiving, are worthy of some particular recognition for their roles in kind of creating this and bringing this to life in such a hugely amazing way. But I think the two that obviously carry it are Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey.
Golly,
both
dude.
Brilliant actors. I mean, obviously Pedro, we've said a lot of things about him in the past because we've enjoyed his work. Justin Timberlake. We've likened him to Justin Timberlake once time. I think it's time that he ascends above JT. I think Pedro Pascal is just Pedro Pascal now.
That's true.
He's earned that. He's the Mando. He's
ultimate father figure.
He's the dancing guy in Wonder Woman 1984. He's the smiling guy in Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and he's the goddamn Red Viper in Game of Thrones, lest we forget. But he's just incredible. He's a fantastic actor. He was a great choice for Joel here.
Yeah, he was.
And so I don't want to like belittle him or make it or diminish. That's a better word. I expected Pedro Pascal to be really great. I wasn't surprised that he would just step into this role and own it. I think Bella Ramsey is the real revelation here for me, because I thought she was fantastic as Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones. And that's the only thing I'd ever seen her in. And I think Ellie is such a really interesting, nuanced character who she's so young, but she's gone through so much in her life. Even before we meet her and as we meet her and as she goes through these things, like she goes through the fucking ringer in her life. And that's just a character that...
Kudos to them not going after Ellie Page, right? Ellie Page was the actress in Naughty Dog, the Naughty Dog game.
Not actually. No, I think there was a little bit of a thing where that Elliot Page said like, "Oh, they used my likeness for making this character." I don't really know that there was anything that really kind of came of that. There was actually it was actually Ashley Johnson that played Ellie.
Is that right? Oh, wow. Okay.
And Ashley Johnson is in this show in some capacity, so we'll talk about that. She is in a particular episode in a particular particularly important role, which is meaningful, I think, given both her role in the game and in the show. But she's also like 40 fucking years old, so like,
yeah, it's just not going to work.
It just wouldn't work. It would be a problem, and yeah. So I mean, Bella is obviously more age appropriate. I think she's 19 now or something like that. So she's a little older, obviously,
and she fucking crushed it.
But she's incredible. And she took this character and just brought it to new heights. You know, like I said, I expected Pedro to be incredible, and I really liked her as Lyanna Mormont. I thought she had such commanding presence, you know, for this basically child who's in charge of this house at that point because of the circumstances in which we found Lady Mormont. But here, you know, there's just so many different little facets of Ellie's personality, and we see all of those. You know, we see the before times, we see her going through some really traumatic experiences, and then we see more tender and you know, heartfelt moments with Joel and others, and it's just, she just nails all of it. She's incredible. I think without her, the show doesn't work as well. So they really just crushed it in terms of getting her involved. And that's not to diminish, obviously, anyone else in the show, but I think Pedro and Bella, you needed those two to be perfect. And not only are they perfect independently, they're perfect together. They have great chemistry with each other that makes just all the dynamics just so believable. And again, like, that's the reason that you find yourself compelled and glued to the show week after week, or for my case, episode after episode, because of those two anchoring it. Really, really impressive stuff from both of them. So all of that said, I mean, that's really kind of going to the technical levels and stuff like that, which is all just completely motherfucking top notch. This is as top notch as you can get with like just TV shows in terms of production values. You'd be hard pressed to find anything that surpasses this. I mean, it's, you know, obviously HBO is pouring a shit ton of money into Game of Thrones once upon a time. They're pouring some of that money into House of the Dragon, and I'm glad that they did not seem to skimp with this one. You know, I think certain things are easier to bring to life in this one. You know, it's a lot of people, but there are also effects heavy things that happen in this show, and I think those are also equally effective. And I think they just really handled it all with a really, really deft touch. Score, you mentioned, I think briefly, it's Gustavo Santaolalla, who actually did the music for the game as well, and David Fleming, who worked on that, and it's great. As it worked on the game, it works here really brilliantly.
Cinematography.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know if it's I think it's a few. I think it's a few different folks. Yeah, kind of throughout the shows. But they filmed all this in Alberta, Canada. You know, and I think that they managed to do a really good job of making all the locations they shot in feel different from each other. You know, it never to me, like, because this is a show that jumps a lot of locales, it never to me felt like, and obviously there's sets and stuff to make like certain things work better than others, but I was impressed by how well they managed to transform a lot of the set design and places they found into distinct feeling locations. I think they did a really nice job of that. Just again, and obviously the cinematography, I guess, bringing that to life to a certain extent. So, I think my last point, since I've been going on for a while now, it's my turn. My last point is really just I want to compliment the storytelling because it goes to a lot of places. This is a show that moves quickly, that jumps place to place, and each episode, or maybe a set of episodes, gives you just a really compelling, compactly told story. Each you know, like almost a mini series kind of thing, and it's like that in the game as well, where it's like you go to a location, you go through a sequence of events, you meet some people there, things happen, you move on, and it does that here. I mean, it has that sort of video gamey kind of pacing of doing that, but it does it really well. Nothing overstays its welcome. It moves along quickly and snappily while still giving you enough time to understand not only Joel and Ellie, of course, but to meet new people along the way and feel some way about them, have some level of intrigue about them, good or bad. You know, it gives you a little insight into why are antagonists being antagonistic. That sort of thing is really interesting. It's the kind of thing you don't get out of the game.
It's humanity, right? It's the humanity between all the characters. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And so, yeah, I mean, the storytelling is just really interesting and really well done. And a lot of that, I think, can be owed to the video game. So now this is the part where I say, I played The Last of Us back when it came out in 2013 on the PlayStation 3. I beat it back then. You did not, is my understanding, but you played a significant chunk of it, as I recall.
I think so. Yeah, I played a good bit of it.
They put out a remaster on the PS4 a little while back, a few years back, before Part 2 came out on the PS4. And I started the remastered PS4 version, never finished it. I think I got through a pretty significant chunk of it, like roughly probably what 2/3 of the season covers in terms of story material. Never finished it, never played Part 2, but then they put out that Last of Us Part 1 remake on the PS5, which is just kind of a graphical remake of the first game, using the engine from The Last of Us Part 2 and enhancing kind of the visuals of the first game. I have beaten that. I played through that in its entirety. And I also played the downloadable content Left Behind, which is covered in this show as well. It does look incredible. It's really the same game otherwise.
Okay.
But it's the best way to experience it at this point. There's no reason to play the original. There's no reason to play the PS4 remaster over the PS5 one. It's the same game, which is a really, really fucking good game. And it's that story, which is really, really fucking good in the game. And that's why I will say this. I think it's why it's so good here, because some of the things that I want to talk about in spoilers is here's how they did it in the game, or here's maybe how they changed things from the game. But I think what I appreciated about this show, and it's kind of a rare position that I find myself in, because a lot of times I don't usually like read a book before the movie comes out or TV show comes out. It's a rarity for me. It's usually the opposite, where I watch something and it compels me to go back to the source material, and then I can appreciate, all right, yeah, the source material is a little bit better here. Like a Game of Thrones, obviously I was ahead of the curve a little bit there until I wasn't, because we ran out of fucking books material and things went sideways. But like for this one, I had basically experienced the game story
a decade and a half.
Times.
Yeah, and a decade and a half early. Yeah, you were way ahead of the curve.
Right. So I've kind of known this story, and I've had recent experience with it. And I started Part 1 before the show started airing. I got it late last year when the game when the game came out, basically. And so I've been kind of working my way through the story. And I had set that goal for myself of I want to play the game and finish the game, the remake of the game, before I finish the show. Because I just kind of want to have the game fresher in my mind as I see where they, diverged or didn't. I wanted to see why maybe they made those decisions. And so what I can say about the show versus the game, and again, I'll elaborate with more detail on these later, is this is an incredible adaptation. This is the best video game adaptation of all time. I'm not even going to sweat it, and I don't have to think about it. Because
I don't think that's a stretch.
It's not 100%. It's not a 1-to-1 adaptation, but it's pretty damn close. Because the video game worked really well. They took what worked about the video game, which was the story. They largely kept that intact with some changes here and there, which I think probably actually were better than what they did in the game. It's kind of a classic thing of, you had your chance at it once, and then you have a chance to redo it, and now they've had the benefit of hindsight. They've made Part 2, and you're like, maybe I could do something a little bit different here that it might actually play a little bit better. Now that I have a little bit more time with this. Yeah, I've had time to sit on it, and I can look at it and think, let's do it this way. That could work better. And you also have a new mind coming in. You have Neil Druckmann coming from Naughty Dog, from the games. And then you have Craig Mazin, who's the Chernobyl guy, being like, I have an idea too. And it's like, you made Chernobyl. Let's just do whatever the fuck you say, because you probably know what you're talking about. And he came in as a huge fan of the game, but he still recognized there are ways to adapt this, to change this, to make this something different, but still interesting and just as compelling as the game. And they just did such a magnificent job of taking a really great story already and enhancing it and telling it in impactful ways. I for a moment there, I was just kind of like, well, is it just going to feel samey if it's the same thing over again? Or is it going to piss me off if they change things that I liked from the games? And there was never a moment in the show where I thought, oh, why'd they do it that way? I didn't like that. There were moments where they changed it, and I was like, wow, that's really fucking interesting that they just completely changed this. And then there are moments where it's just like, okay, well, there's not, and every episode doesn't devolve into Joel hiding behind a crate and, popping out to shoot, 30 infected and, 20 fucking people, coming up on him, trying to steal his shit or whatever. And like, obviously they had to have a more tactful approach in terms of stripping away some of the gameplay elements and making it feel like a little bit more realistic. Like, there's not always a million infected running around. Sometimes one is enough to be a threat. Like that's the way the show treated it. And it's just a really interesting way of honoring the ideas of the game, the literal story of the game, and taking like little moments of gameplay from the game and making it like feel real and, appropriate in an episodic format. There are certain things where it's like there's a million moments where Joel boosts Ellie up to get a ladder down for him, and it happens like maybe once or twice in this show. But it's
when it happens,
funny when it
like,
does. It's like that's gameplay right there. They did that. They did the thing. Yeah, I love that. So I will say, as a huge fan of the game, the show just nailed it. Just fucking nailed it. And I was just so impressed by how well it nailed it. So yeah, that's what I have on The Last of Us. I think on the non-spoiler side of things, just a really brilliant show. Absolutely a tour de force. One of the finest shows that I've seen in a while. I haven't finished Andor yet, to be fair. So maybe it'll be
that one's really good too.
That was your number one last year. I was trying to think. I was like, what was my number one last year? And I was like, well, it wasn't Andor because I hadn't watched it at the time. I'm still not even sure what it was, but I'm sure it was something, pretty good or whatever.
And Andor's good for its stuff. This is different. It's total. I mean, it's just a totally different game.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'll kick it back to you if you have any other non-spoilery thoughts. I know you gave me a window, and I said, "Oh, well, yes, I will take a hold of this and talk for 20 minutes." No, don't mind me. We can do recommendation if you have nothing else.
Yeah, recommendations, man.
All right, so we get to bust out our TV recommendation, which is just the recommendation that we rolled with for a long time until we confused ourselves with our new film one, which was just our old film one. It's like a new Bob, old Bob sort of situation we had going there. So our recommendations could be very yes at the very top, could be a yes, a little step down from that. Totally fine is the middle ground, fine below that, and then could be a shithouse. Could be a shithouse show. I don't know if we've ever had a shithouse show that we've actually covered. Probably would have been Halo if we did an episode, but or Resident Evil if we did an episode.
Or Resident Evil. I've definitely experienced my fair share of shithouse shows.
It's not that they're not out there. I just think we usually get like 2 or 3 and we're like, we're not fucking having a whole episode on that. Like, come on.
It's terrible. Nothing worse than a shithouse show.
Nothing worse. Yeah, that's true. I think this is probably pretty easy for both of us, but you can disagree if you feel so inclined.
Yeah.
It's a very yes, is it not?
I think this is probably the most yes I can probably give a show on this podcast.
If we could invent, like how there's an A, but there's also an A+, this is a very yes plus, maybe. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I think that this is the best show I think this is the best show we've covered on this podcast, I think.
Well, we didn't cover Chernobyl, I think, other than on a year in review.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
and
technically that wouldn't
even if
qualify.
even if we had,
this just
it's different. It's different
enough.
It's kind of the same, but it's very different.
It's the same types of production values, but it's almost like taking characters and setting that you're going to be endeared to more. So,
correct.
Of course, you're going to like it more.
It's a different kind of story.
Just kind of makes sense. Yeah, it's not that one is necessarily better than the other. It's just you're probably going to enjoy. Like Chernobyl was a hard watch because it was fucking scary, and
it's true.
And it's true. Well, that's almost why it's scary. Is because this all just fucking happened. Like this is just telling you what happened. It's just like, yeah, people are dumb fucking assholes and selfish pieces of shit who will cover shit up because they don't really care about people except for themselves. And it's like, well, there's elements of that obviously in The Last of Us too, but like, no. It's just telling you a story about how humanity sucks through a fictional lens. So it's more fun. It's a bold claim that this might be the best show we've covered. And I'm going to do a quick scrub of what we have covered, but I'm not inclined to disagree. I don't see anything. I mean, House of the Dragon, Rings of Power, Nope, definitely better than both of those. I mean, I think it's better than any of the Disney Plus shows, and I obviously love a good chunk of those, and
they're different.
That's what we cover a lot. Certainly since the Marvel one started. But
I mean, it's a different caliber. It's a different caliber of thing.
It's better than the Book of Boba Fett. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Loki. I do like Loki, but I think it's better than Loki. I think it's better than Castlevania.
All of those are very, very, very.
I think it's better than The Mandalorian. It's better than the other Pedro Pascal led show. Yeah. Even though we love some Mando, I think it's still got to be better than that.
And it's not to dismiss those shows.
No, but this is just that
different
good.
Caliber.
It's just that good.
I think this might be Watch Review's best.
Could be. I'm not seeing anything to dethrone it. I really am not. And there's a lot of great shows here. I mean, I don't know. We covered Game of Thrones seasons 3 and 4. Maybe those are like kind of, right in the conversation. But those are individual seasons we're talking about. We're not talking about Game of Thrones as a show. Absolutely falls below The Last of Us.
And I don't think you can honestly say that they were as consistent in delivering.
No, probably not. Even within seasons.
Exactly. I think there's got to be inconsistency in those shows where this is just a banger every episode,
well, you forgot that we covered Iron Fist season 2. So, although Iron Fist season 1 is obviously superior because it has the cinnamon wheat ice cream bit in it.
Cinnamon wheat ice cream, Danny.
Denny, we are the last of us, Denny.
Yeah, various show. The most various show.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Okay, so let's do full spoilers then, right? Full spoilers for The Last of Us season 1.
I want to kick this off.
Yeah. Okay, you got something in mind?
I have a
thought.
Top
of your mind. All right, what's your thought?
I think that. I think probably the best intro for a show. Is probably the first 10 minutes of this show. I also think, the first 10 minutes of episode 2 are also very, very, very profound. But I think that you know what you're getting into with the first 10 minutes of the pilot of this show.
It starts with the TV program, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the TV program and the debate on
right. It's like a talk show kind of thing.
Exactly. It happens quick, it's punchy, the dialogue's tight, the production value seems very well realized. It feels like if you were to watch one of those classical debates, which I've watched them before, it's shot in the same manner, the people are holding themselves in the same way. Everything is very, it's like you pulled it straight out of history. And the snappiness of the dialogue just kind of like leaves you slapjawed because it goes from like a kind of like an innocent debate to something kind of fucking really scary.
Well, there's a point in this show where things go real bad, and like this is included in the show for a very particular reason to set up the threat, so to speak, right? Of you want to know, like, okay, yeah, all right, viral pandemics, that could be bad. But hey, you know what? You get a vaccine. And almost, again, this is one of those things where, like, you have your real-life experiences in watching this where just like, yeah, a viral pandemic does suck. And then they're like, yeah, but you know what would really fucking suck? A fungal pandemic. Good luck with that, motherfuckers. That's the end of the world. And so you kind of have that sort of, like, almost, like, recognition. And, it's kind of interesting, too, because it's like, all right, well, within this world, you have this debate from the 60s, 70s, whenever it takes place, and it's like the clues were there. People were saying this. One guy at least was saying this. Like, this is where things go wrong. This is where things go bad in a big way
because it's gonna fucking change everything's gonna adapt to the heat.
Right, and that's a really interesting kind of starting point. That's just like drawing on real life things where it's just like
it's topical now,
right, and it's setting the stage for, well, we did this to ourselves in a certain sort of way, and then obviously there's a point where too late, you had an opportunity and you missed it, you missed your window. You're fucked.
Episode 2, doctor, what do we do? What do we do? This is happening. You just need to fucking annihilate the entire city.
Bomb and hope for the best. Like, we're
kill
fucked.
Everything.
I got to go home and be with my family. Like, we're fucked. Yeah, it's really interesting because there are certain episodes, and and we'll jump back to episode 1 a little bit more, with the characters that we follow. But there are episodes that really use these kind of cold opens to flesh out the world in a really interesting sort of way. And those first 2 episodes do such a really interesting thing in structuring it this way. And it's a thing you don't get
World
in the game.
Building. Yeah.
Because the game is Joel and Ellie. You get Joel and Ellie's perspective on everything. You don't get that sort of outsider's perspective of, seeing what happened, how shit went down, or warning us what might go down kind of thing. I like that. It's really interesting. That second one particularly, I think is that the one where it explains? It's like, yeah, it's in the grain. And because you have that kind of thought. I'm like, how the fuck does this spread so rapidly? How is it like just one day everything collapses? Within a few hours almost.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it's just the food chain supply is just it's everywhere. And it's a thing that nearly everyone consumes. So I thought that was a really kind of interesting explanation of like. Yeah,
it's really. It's really well thought out too.
Just
anyways.
Someone snaps, and then within that period of time, like just the world has gone to shit. Just I don't know, really interesting stuff. But yeah, just that second episode cold open is really just kind of like a clear message of we are beyond salvation now, and it's just like fuck, start bombing,
it's
like
on.
Man, yeah. Well, jumping back to episode 1 though. We get the cold open, the pilot, but then we get the second opening, which is kind of the day of, basically the day the world went away, so to speak. And this is the only time. It's the only time in the show that we get to spend with Sarah, Joel's daughter. And it's in the game you play as Sarah. It's like this little prologue thing where you play as her. And I just remember when I first played that game, it was just the most gut-wrenching fucking opening to a video game I think I've ever played. Just
it starts out at their house at night, right?
Yeah, it starts out, it's the house at night. She wakes up, she starts looking for Joel, like, where is he, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, shit hits the fan, like, pretty quickly. Like, a neighbor is outside, like, something's wrong with our neighbor, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we gotta go. Tommy shows up, we gotta go.
In the video game, the first time when I played, I think it was PS3, I think. Yeah. PS3. Sarah wakes up from bed, and I'm like, fuck, my game's frozen. It's not fucking doing anything. And it's because it was me playing. I remember I was
transition from like cutscene to gameplay.
Ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. Just imagine playing it on a PS5 now with all the graphical upgrades. You'd make the same mistake. It's like, I'm ready for it this time. Shit, nope, still caught me off guard.
The beginning of the game is nuts.
And it just quickly goes from calm and peace, and even more so in the show because you spend a lot of time with Sarah. Like, you see her at school, she's going to like the watch thing, and like you hear like the broadcasts and like hear like sirens and stuff, and like it's clear that there's like something going on. We don't really know what it is that's going on, and we don't really see the full effects of it. She goes
and
to
it takes place at like 9/11 or something like that, right?
Not quite. It's 2003, so it's a little bit after. But
is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah. But she goes to the neighbor, and and everything's fine there. And turns out Grandma got infected. She's got fucking tendrils coming out of her mouth and shit. Some
Jesus
pretty gnarly business there. She's hopping around, killing everyone. Yeah, I mean, things just go to shit so quickly. And I just, the pure chaos of it was just captured so well. And I think even more so in the show, because there's like fucking planes crashing, and it's just absolute madness. And like, it's the first, like, I don't know what, like 40 minutes of this show. I mean, obviously some of that is including the debate part of it, but like, you spend a lot of time with Sarah and kind of just seeing things through her eyes.
It's a really good use of dynamics.
Yeah.
It doesn't spend too long to where it's boring. It just, you got this girl trying to surprise her dad on his birthday with a broken watch, and then it just slowly, and things are going to shit around her, but she's ignorant of her.
Yeah, she's not really cognizant. She doesn't know what exactly is going on. Yeah.
And then it just pops off in a major way by the time night falls, and it's fucking scary. It's terrifying.
It is. And because you're kind of in her eyes and you don't really know what's going on, it's just panic. It's just pure panic. And crazy grandma is insane and killing people, and your dad is now bashing her brains in. It's like, what the fuck is happening? You're hopping in a truck, you're driving through the city, and there's just these people running around.
There's
it's
a
like
fucking plane crashing.
Yeah, it's just absolute madness, and they just captured that all so well, of just how horrifying and scary that situation would be for anyone, but particularly obviously for someone who's 13, 14, around this time, like just a really, really crazy thing.
And then she gets fucking shot.
And that's the first real moment in this show, as it was in the game, that tells you what you're in for, right? Of just like, no one is safe. Don't get attached to anyone, because we're going to treat things realistically, and people are going to die. People will go through really tough situations, and they may not come out on the other end. And so, it was just so gut-wrenching in the game, because you play as Sarah and you don't really, and when you're playing it for the first time, you really know what you're in for. Here, anyone obviously that it's not familiar with the game, it's going to be the same thing, where you just and maybe even more so because you spent so much time with Sarah and like kind of getting to know her a little bit, she's just taken away from you, just like that, and that's how it is for Joel, where it's like, we're not infected, and then it's just shoot on sight. It's kind of what we see in the episode 2. It's just like, take no prisoners, like, it's just, we can't afford any mistakes, we can't afford anything, just kill on sight. We let's just not even take the chance. Just absolutely fucking brutal. The way that it all plays out. It's just heavy. The show is just heavy. Really and again, this is just that first moment where you're just like, oh my God, what is this? But then
it fast forwards to the future. Like, is it the same episode? I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah,
right?
It is. So interestingly enough, once upon a time, this first episode was going to be 2 episodes, and it wouldn't have ended quite there. It would have ended after the time jump, because there's a 20-year time jump. It's Joel. He's in Boston now. And then there's this kid that's kind of wandering around outside of the quarantine zone that gets into it. They find out that he's infected, and then it kind of quick cuts to Joel just like throwing this kid's body into another pile of bodies.
Yeah.
And that's where the episode ended originally. And it was just like going from one dead kid to the next. But you see, obviously, Joel is just so sad and so emotional over Sarah's death, and then when he's dealing with his kid, it's just nothing. Just a body.
No, he's just cold now. He's
it's just a body. Forward. And like, it's just showing that 20-year difference, right off the bat. But the HBO execs were like, I don't think people are going to come back to the show if they think it's just about kids dying all the time. And it's like, that's probably a fair read of things. Because and the other thing that you don't get is, if you end it there, is you don't know anything about Ellie, and you don't know how she connects to Joel in any way. And Joel and Ellie are the core of this show.
That's true.
You need Joel and Ellie together, because obviously the relationship begins on murky ground, but it builds. It builds in such a beautiful way that you need to put them together sooner, have them spend as much time together to be able to fully, I think, develop that relationship. So I think it was the right call to kind of keep it going with this episode and give you that taste of the Boston quarantine zone, what it's like under government rule, where you've got rations and you're doing shit labor, like throwing bodies into a pit of bodies.
Man,
it's bad. Life sucks. You survive. You get enough things to eat to survive. You do what you can to survive. Obviously, Joel's got a little bit of a side hustle and stuff too.
Selling some bills or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And you meet Tess as well, where he's got a partner now. Right. Someone who, when we met him earlier, I think he was basically a single father for one reason or another. Now he's got a partner of some sort. I don't know exactly, I guess, what the extent of their relationship is, although there's one episode where we see that they're sleeping in the same bed together. Maybe that means something. It's a little more overt in this show than in the game, that there's clearly a romantic relationship between Joel and Tess. And I think, like, even if it's not outright stated in the game, it's basically implied, and it makes perfect sense. So, but it's really interesting. But it sets the stage of we got to work for the fucking Fireflies, you know, because we need a truck battery. We got to take this fucking girl because, for some reason, because Marlene's hurt, so she can't take her or whatever like that. So it just kind of sets the stage for the journey. And I think it's just such a great, it covers so much territory in that first episode. It's just so good that it gets from debate to this prologue to here's the world as it now stands to, all right, here is the singular goal that is going to drive the entire plot forward for 9 episodes of television. Go. And that's kind of where it is. It ends with kind of this revelation that, oh shit, Ellie's infected. But is she? Is she immune? I don't know. This is like such a perfect sort of setting all the pieces. And I think it made perfect sense to merge these maybe once upon a time 2 episodes together because you get so much information packed into this one that makes you wanting for more at the end of the day. You know, it makes you want to come back from episode 2. Just a really one of many excellent episodes in The Last of Us. One of many excellent episodes. So yeah, that's what I have on episode 1.
Yeah, dude.
All right. Anything else for you on episode 1? You want to switch over to episode 2? Obviously, we covered a little bit already, but
is this the episode with Offerman?
No, no, not quite yet. That's episode 3. So episode 2 is really just kind of continuing the escape out of Boston. They go to the State House. They go to the museum.
Yeah, the clicker.
This is the introduction of the clickers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfectly recreated here. Just as fucking scary, and maybe even more scary. I don't know, because again, that's one of the consistent things I think that this show does, and I kind of talked about that. The video game has to be video gaming. You know, you have 17 different guns that you can cycle through. You got to shoot a bunch of things or people or whatever.
Conserve your ammo, fight.
This one's a little different. Like, Joel's got a pistol, and with limited ammunition, like, you got to be conservative with it. And so it's like a little bit more realistic that you have a handful of clickers, but that's enough to be like fucking menacing. And so that whole museum sequence was like, I don't know, it was awesome. And like felt like the game, recreated the feel of the game. Just as tense as just, having the controller in your hands and, when
is this the episode,
one wrong move and you're dead kind of thing in the game. So
is this the episode where Joel gets put into a similar situation as before the thing with the with the guard? That's when Ellie finds out she's positive.
That's the very end of the first episode, right? Yeah, where they come up against the guard and she gets scanned, but basically kind of jumps him and stabs him, and then Joel has to basically kill him to silence him at that point. Yeah, and that was the end of episode 1. Yeah,
brutal episode.
I'm telling you that first episode, just so much packed into it. Incredible stuff. I think the rest of the episodes are obviously really good, but that first episode is just loaded with a lot of shit that really sets the stage for everything moving forward.
For sure.
I think the biggest thing I think that happens in episode 2 is it's the end of Tess.
It's the end of Tess, and it was really fucking nasty too. That last sequence.
There's like a kiss sequence kind of thing with the one infected that splits off to
the fuzz fucking coming out of its mouth.
Yeah, and getting gnarly.
Oh, fuck you!
It's real gnarly. But she finally gets that goddamn lighter to ignite and sends them all up in flames, which was good. And a nice change from the games, because like in the games it's just Fedra pursuing you, and then she like kills like 2 Fedra soldiers and that's it. And it's just like, okay, I mean, she was infected, she's going to turn anyway, she might as well go out and take some people with her. But here it felt like a big fucking like thing where it's just like, I'm going to blow up this whole goddamn building and full of infected now, because they have this fungal network that they've traveled through. Like, I thought that was a really impactful change that was awesome, that made her sacrifice feel more meaningful. But again, it's just this reminder of like, oh, Anna Torv's in this. She was one of the leads in Fringe. I'm sure she's going to have a huge role in this. Oh, she's dead. Okay. All right. I mean, she shows up obviously in episode 3 in like the flashbacks that we see with Bill and Frank. But again, it's just another reminder. Like, don't get too attached to anyone, because, and I thought that was a great iteration of Tess here. I thought she was really compelling, and obviously such a great pairing for Joel. Joel, who's just like a fucking, I don't know,
hardened fucking.
He's just he's just a force of will, like he's just he's a blunt instrument, is how he is. And Tess is the person that can understand him, but also, use him, and like, I'm going to direct you. Like, you're just this cold and just detached person. Like, I give you meaning, like you mean something to me, I mean something to you. And that's good enough that we're a team, and then we can just kind of do whatever we need to do together to survive. They made a really good, effective team. And when Tess leaves, when she dies, it leaves Joel alone again. He's lost Sarah, now he's lost Tess, and now he has this fucking little girl who he's stuck with, who he has no attachment to, who is just a fucking burden. Like, that's where they are right now. And I think that's just so interesting that it's just like, Jesus Christ, like everything is going wrong in my life.
Yeah, and now Tess is gone. You know what I mean? She's
right. It's just the two. It's
we
just
take on
Joel
this
and
fucking thing, and because of you, now Tess is fucking gone. She's,
yeah, it's just a mess.
Joel's in a rough spot again.
Yeah, but they go off to meet Bill and Frank in episode 3, and here's where we see one of the major divergences from the game. The game, Bill is very much alive. By the time that they meet up, you go on a whole little thing with Bill to a schoolyard to get a truck battery, blah, blah, blah. There's like this almost like a little backstory with Frank where like they clearly had a relationship and then a falling out, and Frank has gotten infected and then killed himself instead of turning. It's a really dark and depressing thing where basically like there's like a note you can find that Frank wrote where he's just like, actually, Bill, you're a fucking asshole and I think you're a piece of shit. And I'm glad that, like you're so stuck in your ways that like you'll never change and fuck you. And
wow.
And it's just like a really like nasty sort of thing where like the way that those two people ends and if you have the option in the game to give the note to Bill and Bill reads and is like, well, fuck you too, Frank, and just crumbles it up and throws it on the ground kind of thing. And it's just such a bitter thing. And then they changed it into such a sweet, tender relationship in this show. And this is one of those changes. Totally different. Totally fucking different. But brilliant. But brilliant, I think. I heard a lot of buzz when this episode came out. This is one of those. Man. This is one of those moments in the show that it's sad, but it's also not sad. Like it's sad. It's a sad series of events, but somehow through the sadness, like you get this really beautiful love story that, although it ends in death, doesn't end in a sad death. In a certain sort.
Well, those people did like what they wanted to do.
Peaceful deaths. And going out on your own terms, kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know. This was a really, really lovely episode. Really well done.
Oh man!
And Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, those two together, man. Like, dude. Wow.
So awesome. Sarah was. She's like, these guys are so burly and so gay. Like you don't see. She was like, I don't know how to feel about this. I don't see how I've never seen burly gay men on top, like making love and stuff. It's just something she's never seen. It's like, I've never seen it either. This is, but good for them. They're happy. It's just, oh man.
Well, it's funny too because Bill is like, well, he's got everything. He's got fucking whole armory of guns. He's got cameras wired to check every part of his. Like he was a doomsday prepper. He was ready
for
the
sure.
day shit went down. He was just like, this is my moment to shine.
And he was happy.
He was content. He was totally content doing that. But then you see more in the episode as Frank enters the conversation. You see there is that side of him that's like, I'm sure that he was very much suppressing that side of him, and then once that barrier comes down, you see kind of a more nuanced version and a happy version of Bill, which was just really touching to see. Even this doomsday prepper,
Which I thought one of the sweetest things about this is like the energy that he put into putting his defenses up. He poured those energies into would it be Frank? It'd be Frank, right?
Yeah.
He poured those energies into Frank, especially in his later years and taking care of him.
Right. Yeah.
And just the ins and outs of the relationship as you see it progress, through the years is just really, really, really touching. You took somebody that was so guarded and so just, content to be by themselves, and then you break them down, and then ultimately, Frank's the one that breaks down, because of his health and this and that.
Right. And you see, like, Bill, they go running around their little fenced-in perimeter, and Bill's fucking struggling. Like, physically, he's not up to where Frank is, and then you just kind of have that reversal of fortunes. Or there's even the moment where Bill gets, they get the people to come, and Bill gets shot.
And he gets shot.
He gets shot, and Bill's like, I'm done for, and Frank kind of cares for him and nurses him back to health, and you just kind of think, well, Bill's not long for this world. He's older. He's old and busted, but life, kind of twists the knife in cruel ways, and Frank is the one that comes down with,
whatever it is he has. I don't know what he's got, but
that that basically
stuff, though,
just highly affects his quality of life, and he's like, you know what, I'm happy.
Done.
I don't need to do this. We've done everything that we needed to do. I just want to have one last day with you. And see moment.
That was so sad.
Cooking the same meal.
Fucking Nick Offerman's breaking down the entire time. Oh, it's so fucking hard.
And it's just so interesting because, like, it turns into a different show in this episode, right? It really does. It's just that little cross section of someone else's lives. And we don't have...
And that's largely because he's fucking walled off. He's got a whole sanctuary there.
And we see Joel and Tess, and it's like, okay, great. All right, it is the same show. Yes, we can say that this is the same show. But it's Bill and Frank's story. This is an episode that's Bill and Frank's story. There's a little bit of Joel and Ellie. It's a little bit of, them obviously at the end arriving and kind of, seeing the aftermath of the events that we see for most of this episode. But it really is Bill and Frank's story through and through. And it's just, I don't know, it's so well done. I was so happy with it.
Oh, man.
And this is a part where I'm like, the first two episodes have hewed pretty closely to the game. This is where it diverged in such a wildly different way. And I'm just like, this is almost more interesting. Like, I'm curious to see where they change things. And, like, are they going to change things for a reason that makes sense? Where, like, here, I'm like, yeah, this is better. I like this more than...
See, I don't remember
Bill and Frank being, bitter towards each other, and Bill just kind of being a curmudgeonly piece of shit, is kind of how he is in the games. Like, it's different, and it's good. It's good. This change is good. It's still Bill. It's still Frank as far as we know from the games, because we don't really interact with Frank. But it's those two characters kind of realized in a different but nicer way. Niceness is a good thing in this show. Mostly bad things happen to people. Mostly bad things happen to good people. Sometimes bad things happen to bad people too. But there's a lot of tragedy in the show, and it's nice to kind of have like a moment, especially early on, where you've had a 1-2 punch of Sarah dead, Tess dead. Okay, Bill and Frank are dead, but again, the way that they die is just so fundamentally different from shot for no reason, or bitten and having to sacrifice yourself, to save Joel and Ellie, to just being like, you know what, we've lived a life in our own compound, we're happy, quality of life isn't the same, let's just do this, let's just, be done with this together in a sort of way. Like, I don't know, so different, so uplifting, relatively speaking. Obviously, tragic, but beautiful.
Bill goes from, like, being completely happy by himself to where I don't want to continue without you. You know what I mean? I don't want to continue on without you by my side.
Right. It's such an evolution of his character.
Oh my God.
Even the hour or whatever that we spent with him. Just such a huge difference.
It's so funny when he gets pissed off about him when Frank wanting to paint the house. I thought that I lost it. I thought that was hilarious. Anyway, and Sarah says, "Oh, God, I'm kind of glad that it's not the apocalypse. It would be us, and she'd want to paint the house or something." It was funny. But, man, what an episode. Episode 3, dude. So unlike it really is a snippet. I mean, because it's very unlike the rest of the show.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
So,
but a nice little reprieve from the harrowing shit that we see outside of those gates, of Bill's compound. So, Bill and Frank's compound. Episodes 4 and 5 bring us to Kansas City, Missouri.
Fuck you.
where Fedra has been recently overthrown by rebels. So there's a new group in charge. And Joel and Ellie, they took a truck from Bill and Frank. They've entered basically a roadblock here in Kansas City and kind of get stuck there by circumstances of this kind of ambush basically that they run into. And so you have a whole series of events here. There's a lot here. I think Henry and Sam are probably kind of like the most, like, just their story is just the most emotional part of it, I think, for me. Yet another one of those things that I remembered from the games, of the way that resolves just being just one of the biggest fucking gut punches, where it's just like, oh my God, we can't keep going on this way, where just like something bad happens every time we go somewhere new, just something really bad has to happen. But it was, I don't know, it was still realized in a really interesting way here, done really well, very poignant. But then you also have this kind of other side of things that we didn't see in the games, which is, who are these people? Who are these people that are going after Joel and Ellie? And you have this Kathleen character who's kind of this leader. They're going after Henry and Sam for a particular reason. That's not really in the game. In the game, it's just Henry and Sam are just passing through the same way Joel and Ellie are. Here, everyone's kind of connected in a way that we didn't have in the game, and it makes it kind of all kind of tie together a little bit more neatly in a more interesting fashion. But yeah, what do you think of this whole Kansas City set of events? What stuck out to you from these two episodes?
Oh man, the conclusion of the conclusion, the clue. I mean, the conclusion.
Well, I mean, which conclusion? Because there's an action conclusion, and then there's the after the action conclusion, where it's just that's where the real gut punch, I think, comes in.
I mean, yeah. So the after conclusion is the thing that I was talking about here. The death of the little boy. The death of the little boy, and then ultimately the death of the brother too. Boof. And then like that's a heavy conclusion on and of itself, right? That kind of like that makes me, because I never got that far in the game. I don't recall playing that far.
Okay. Yeah. So interestingly, in the game, this whole segment is in Pittsburgh, and the reason that they changed it was that the geography of what they had available to them in Canada didn't look anything like Pittsburgh, and they thought it would be too much work to try to make it look like Pittsburgh. And they're like, this looks enough like Kansas City that we can get away with it without having to transform everything. And so that's why they made the change, which is fine. Okay.
Yeah, totally. It's whatever.
But it's a really long segment in the game where you're here for a long time. You're dealing with these fucking people that have taken over the city, who are crazy, or just out trying to kill you. Then you meet up with Henry and Sam. They're like, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, we were here with the group. I think they might be gone, but we're supposed to meet up here. Let's just get out of the city and go here. And so, yeah. So they kind of captured like kind of the essentials of it, I would say.
Yeah. And I think this is like the first example of like, what sacrifices do you make to have stability for a group of people? Like, what are you willing to do to ensure that, and at what lengths do you, like, where is the moral compass point? You know what I mean? Who do you want to be? Anyways, the biggest thing for me was at the end. So I guess it would be episode 5. Ellie tries to put her blood on
right.
his
She
wound.
thinks, I'm immune, maybe my blood can, he's been bit. If I just put blood on the, if I'm the cure, then this is worth a trial. Let's see if it works.
Yeah, and it doesn't work, and that ultimately ends up with the death of that little boy, and then also the brother's like, I just shot my brother. I can't continue.
Yeah,
on.
he can't
himself.
cope. He can't cope with what he just happened and I mean, I think they make it more tragic in the show, because he's just like, oh yeah, my brother had cancer, and like we got through that. Like, we made it through that, and then they just made it through this whole sequence where they're being hunted by these fucking savages, man. These people are fucking ruthless. Like, Kathleen is this character who's just like, you were the reason that my brother died. I will go to any lengths to hunt you down. Even if I get, some side-eyed glances from the people underneath me, I don't fucking care. Like, you're going down whatever it takes.
Right.
Because my brother might have forgiven you, but I don't have that in me. That's not part of me. That's not who I am. And so I'm going to take you down. And her, quest for revenge basically is what gets her whole fucking group killed, because they get the infected rising up, after that truck crashes into the building. Amazing sequence. And there's the bloater. There's the $500,000 suit that we see come into play. The bloater. And like, as soon as you see that thing, it's the same way in the game. It's like, there's a sequence in the game. It's later where there's like 3 in the same area. I just ran past them. I was like,
three bloaters.
Yeah, I was like, I'm throwing a bottle. They're getting distracted. Run. Because those things take like 2 Molotovs, 2 pipe bombs, like fucking 6 shotgun blasts. Like, they're ridiculous. A couple of rifle headshots. Like, and then they finally go down. It's just like, well, Jesus Christ, there goes my whole fucking ammo and materials that I just crafted for all this shit. They're rough. And like, I like the way that they treated in the show, where it's just like, no one's putting up a fight. No one's even going to try to put up a fight. That thing goes up to the second guy, who's the guy that plays Tommy in the games, by the way, the bearded guy with the long hair, and he just rips his head in half. Like, that's what happens if a bloater gets anywhere close to you in the games. You just get your head ripped off. And you're like, yeah, fair enough. But
Ellie,
yeah. Anyway, they made it through all of that, I guess, was my point. And then you get to the moment where it's just like, well, he got bit once, and that's the end of it. The blood doesn't work. And that's the end of it. And things just spiral so quickly. And that was how it was in the games too. It's just like, a moment to breathe. Everything is fine. 2 minutes later, everything was not fine. I am sad.
And that's about the.
I'm going to cry.
I mean,
I cried when I was playing the game, and that whole sequence with Henry and Sam played out. Rough. Anyway,
there was a single tear. There was a single tear, like when that happened, slack-jawed, single tear, the whole 9 yards. They're burying him, and the part where I had sloppy cry tears and kind of like the like you just can't breathe right.
You can't control it. Like, it's just
is when Ellie put I'm sorry on top of the. She puts I'm sorry on top of the top of the grave, and then she's like, let's just go. And it's like, oh man. And then they just keep walking. They just keep going.
Nothing else to do but move forward, right? That's it.
That's it.
The journey continues.
What is this existence? How do you even keep going? Episodes in 4 and 5 are rough ones for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, 5 in particular, just that.
5 in particular.
Yeah, right. And they really got kind of 2 episodes in tandem that go together, but that ending is just like much of the show, just so heavy. I will say shout out to Kevon Woodard, who plays Sam. He so the character is not deaf in the game. They made that kind of change, and I think one of the reasons that they made that change is they wanted Henry and Sam to kind of have a different mode of communication than Joel and Ellie do, because they're kind of parallels in certain sort of ways. And 2 people kind of surviving together have a kind of closeness to some extent. Obviously, Henry and Sam at that point are closer than Joel and Ellie are. Right. But it's an interesting kind of thing where you have an adult character and a child character. I don't know, just to kind of have those paired together was really interesting. But Kevon Woodard he's a little younger than he is in the game, but he's actually a deaf actor. And I thought he was really good. He and Lamar Johnson, who plays Henry, had a really good chemistry together. Just 2 actors that come in for just 2 episodes out of 9 out of the show, and they make you care about them. They make you really care about this relationship, and then when things just go so bad, it's just well, it's heartbreaking, man. Yeah, it's just so rough, it's just so hard, because it's just so fast that things go bad. But the journey continues.
Got to keep going.
That's right. So episode 6 covers a lot of territory. There's a little bit of a time skip, but they make it to Jackson, Wyoming, and there's a whole fully functional settlement here in Jackson. Tommy's there. Joel's brother is there. Oh, he's married. Oh, she's pregnant. They watch movies. They
eat people.
Well, no, not here. That's the other one. Later on,
that's the other one. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
This is a good one. This is a good settlement. But yeah, no, this is almost like a happy episode until it isn't. Because it's like, oh my God, like this is what the world kind of used to be like, and like things are nice, and I get to take a shower and change of clothes, and they have menstrual products for 14-year-old girls, and it's like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, and I liked Gabriel Luna plays Tommy. I thought he was really good. He and Pedro, I think, had a nice kind of rapport, and obviously like their relationship's a little fractured, but I thought that was really nice kind of breather episode, again, until it wasn't, because I thought that this whole episode would just be in Jackson, and then it wasn't. But for the moments that they are there, I don't know, it is just kind of this nice reminder that like, hey, people don't have to suck in this world, like, yeah, people can choose to be good still, and people can choose to not be cannibals, or to not kill people that come into their city, or like there are people in this world that are just like, we just want to live and and
peace, man,
have good things and do nice things and like each other and not fucking kill each other all the goddamn time. And it's like, oh yeah, oh that's cool, I like that. That would be kind of cool. So yeah, that was really nice. I really enjoyed that. I mean, obviously it kind of it fakes you out a little bit, because I think this is the one where they meet the two Native American people who are just like, don't go over there, and then they go over there and they kind of get the horses circled around them, and then it's kind of just like, oh shit, you're Joel. Okay, all right, this is fine. We can let you into our community. If we didn't trust you, if you're one of those unsavory types, we probably would have killed you on the spot. And is this the one where they have the dog or whatever that like goes up and sniffs Ellie? Maybe
I think so. Yeah,
and it's
totally.
Like we don't know what that fucking dog's gonna do, because we know that she's sort of infected. Like, what does that mean? Yeah. So it's tense. It's tense to see like how does this resolve itself, but it resolves itself nicely, and things aren't so bad.
And you get that little special moment between Ellie and Joel where she's like, everybody's turned their back on me. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to turn my back, just fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
like
really,
Ellie she's experienced nothing but loss. And we see more of that in episode 7. But like, she's like, you're like the one, constant at this point, and now you want to just like fucking run away. Like, yeah, fuck you, shove it. Like, yeah, and it's totally valid. And even Joel, who's kind of just being like, well, I'm just old and busted, I can't do anything anymore. And, and it's funny when they go to the stables or whatever, and Joel is there, it's like, oh, I just need to see you off. And I thought maybe I'd give you a choice. She's like, okay, let's fucking go. To him, she's like, see you, Tommy. It's just, I don't know. It was a good moment where like you can clearly see the kinship that's really started to develop between Joel and Ellie.
Right.
And Joel is still closed off in many ways, but they're a lot closer than they were 3 episodes ago. Trauma bonds people, right? Like maybe that Kansas City experience did a little bit, but also there's a 3-month time jump where they've been traveling. They drove from Boston to Kansas City. They walked from Kansas City to fucking Wyoming. Like that probably takes a shit long time, like 3 months, I guess. Is what it says.
Yeah.
Like they're spending a lot of time with each other. You can't just ignore someone forever, right? And so they're kind of, gradually starting to seek comfort within each other, just because it's nice to have someone there, with you, and that person has something to offer and you have something to offer to them. And it's just, you kind of get the relationship.
And you can see that
you
can really see the growth in Joel too.
Yeah.
From somebody that was throwing a kid on a pyre just without
totally
any sort of emotion.
He's starting to have a reason to care. It's not so much that he believes, so much as he wants to do right by Tess, because Tess said do this fucking thing, and Tess meant something to him.
But eventually,
he's doing
morphs.
and that's morphing, and you can see it actively morphing here. He's trying to say like, I can't do this anymore. I can't risk losing someone else again Tommy's young and strong. He'll take care of you. It's not a big deal. It's just a straight shot down to Colorado. You'll be fine. But then he kind of, when Ellie kind of calls him on his shit, he takes the minute, kind of, recalculates and is like, all right,
Okay.
well, let's let's see what you think. And, she doesn't even hesitate for a second. She's like, nope, you're Joel. I don't know. I don't fucking know Tommy. Like, he might be nice. I don't know who he is. I know you. You will protect me. You are a fucking goddamn machine, and you will protect me.
Until he's deaf in one fucking ear and gets stabbed in the chest or in the stomach or whatever.
Yeah, maybe Ellie's decision was a little unfounded. Maybe she was a little attached for no reason. But yeah, I was shocked. I thought this whole episode was going to be, a little nice little Wyoming. Like again, episode 5 ends with that fucking doozy. You give me a nice kind of break from it where it's just like, okay, things are good. And then the episode kept continuing, and I'm like, this whole Colorado piece, that's a whole set piece in the games. Like, that's a whole different section in the games. Like, why are they going here? Like, are they going to do this whole goddamn set piece and 2 full set pieces in the game? I'm like, no way. And they did. They did the whole thing. They go through it. The monkeys are there or whatever, and then the people show up, and then Joel gets fucking stabbed, and I'm like, God damn it. We just went through 4 hours of the game and an hour and change or whatever. But I think it's such a smart way of doing it, because not only does it afford you an opportunity to backtrack a little bit with Ellie's story in the next episode and Left Behind, but it also sets the stage for obviously episode 8, where it's Ellie on her own getting captured and dealing with some fucking cannibals and shit. So it really sets 2 things in motion from this point of having Joel, having Ellie's protector out of the picture. It's like, well, what fucking next? What happens now? Like, Ellie's a 14-year-old girl, and she's vicious and she's got a knife and she can take Joel's gun and whatever, but how the fuck is she gonna A, save Joel because she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing, and B, how the fuck is she gonna protect herself? Like, 2 really, really interesting threads that they kind of have to deal with, and they kind of do that in sequence here. So episode 7 is Left Behind. Do you have any thoughts on episode 6?
No. Ended a big way. So fun fact, we're far beyond where I've played the video game before.
Yes. So this is like totally new territory, right?
Yeah. So
you don't know what's coming. Like, everything here is a surprise to you.
I don't know the. Yeah, everything's new. I'm like, oh, Joel's fucked. He's done.
Okay. So you thought maybe this is it for Joel at this point in time.
I didn't necessarily know if that the episode would. I mean, the one where he obviously he fell off the horse.
He was
whatever.
dead there, but it's just like
it's
maybe
coming.
he's going to die.
Right.
This, maybe it's next episode, maybe it's the episode after that, but he's going to die, and it's just going to be Ellie at this point.
So maybe. Fast forward to the second episode, and now we're dealing with the cannibal people. And I told Sarah when we were watching it, these people are eating fucking people. They're eating people.
Yeah, what are we eating today?
They're low on food, and they're eating
venison.
fucking people, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's definitely venison. Yeah.
She goes,
okay.
How do you know? Like, tale as old as time. These people are eating fucking people.
we haven't met a group of cannibals in a post-apocalyptic world yet. They're coming, and we have one episode left after this. It's got to be these guys. Also, this guy's a preacher.
That's it. I'm
shady
feeling
type.
it.
Real shady type. Yeah. All right. Well, do you want to go there, or do you want to go to the flashback, the Left Behind episode with the mall and with Riley and whatnot?
Oh yeah. That was that was a heavy episode too.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the last thing that I played, because I played the main game and then I played the DLC, and then right after, I think the next day after, day or two after I'd played the DLC, I watched this episode. So it was really fresh in my mind. And I will say, actually, episodes 7, 8, and 9 really don't diverge heavily from the games in any way. It kind of got to the point where they realized the game works. And there's bits of dialogue lifted wholesale, just moments in the way that certain things are shot, just done kind of to a T from the game. And I appreciated that. Episode there's a little bit more with David and the gang, the cannibal gang, but for the most part, it's really, really faithfully recreated in a really awesome way. So that said, talking about the story itself, yeah, we get this backstory with Ellie and Riley, who they're at this Fedra school together. clearly Ellie has feelings about her best friend who has now abandoned her for a few weeks, and then they go off on this adventure to the mall.
And she's going to be leaving again, right?
She's going to be leaving again, we find out, yeah. But, before that happens, you get these really awesome, like, just kind of tender moments between these two, at the time we think best friends, although there's obviously, they go to the Victoria's Secret thing, and Ellie, like, kind of looks and, like, she fixes her hair a little bit. Like, she's clearly, like, I'm feeling something, and they both are taking drinks to kind of maybe, calm their nerves or whatever. You get like a photo booth encounter, which is fun. They go on a carousel ride together, and they fucking Mortal Kombat 2 it up for a bit, which I fucking cool. I loved that. They brought in the music and everything. That was just so awesome. But then it's just like, yeah, I'm leaving. And how that kind of plays out. You get this, and like Ellie's 14, Riley's, it sounds like she's older. She's like 16, 17. But they still have this kind of passionate moment where like they kind of realize their feelings for each other. And I just thought that was, just really beautifully done. Leave it to The Last of Us to present two gay stories in just like such a mainstream fashion where millions of people are watching. And it's just kind of a nonchalant sort of thing where it's just like, it's not a big fucking deal. Like, just people are gay and they can be happy too. And obviously bad things can happen to them too. Well, we already knew that part. But I thought it was a really like touching thing for like getting a little, know a little bit more about Ellie, and her backstory. And it's just really sad because it does kind of turn into this thing where, they both get, and it's kind of this thing that I liked, which, in the game, it was a whole it was a horde of infected that chase after him, and then they kind of get, bit during the struggle. Here it's just one fucker is all it takes, to take both of them down, basically. And they kind of have this moment of like, let's just do this together, like, let's just lose our minds together. And as we obviously know, only one of them loses their minds, and we don't see that. At least saves you the tragedy of having to see that particular moment. We only hear that described, that Ellie has to kill Riley at some point. Like she talks about that in episode 9, and I think it might undercut as there are certain things where it's just like, episode 3, like Frank and Bill, take the pills and they go to bed, and then
you don't need to go see. You don't need to see.
And the note, it's like, don't go in the bedroom. You know what I mean? And like the showrunners are like, we don't need to go in the bedroom. We don't need to show you the aftermath of something horrible, like we don't need to show you your fucking decayed corpses months on or whatever. Like that's just mean. We don't need to do that. It undercuts the beauty of what we're trying to sell here.
Right.
And I'm glad that obviously I'm sure it's a horrific moment between Ellie and Riley in that moment where Riley's just obviously crazed and she's infected and she's lost her mind, and Ellie's like, why am I not turning? But we didn't need to see that to be able to convey the impact of how that would affect her, because we see her relationship with Riley and how much Riley means to her.
Storytelling. It actually elevates the storytelling. I think that's
it's a rare occasion of tell, don't show.
Less is more.
Being
less
effective.
Is more.
Less is more. That's a good way of putting it. Less is more. Yeah. So I thought they did a really good job of this, and Ellie's doing what she can to keep Joel together, stitching him up. With what she can find, and hoping for the best. But medicine would be good. Maybe some penicillin might be good.
Just fucking shooting that penicillin right into his fucking stomach. His stomach hole.
Is that where it goes? I don't know if that's where it goes. I don't know if that's the best place for
put
it.
Put that shit in his leg or something. Why you gotta stick it in the hole? Stick it in his wound. It's just fucking brutal. And then even Joel's like, oh, what the fuck? He's
that's funny. But yeah, episode 8, the cannibals.
Rapist cannibal. I mean, he's just a real piece of. He's a real piece of shit. This guy.
Pedophilic rapist cannibal at that.
Oh yeah. Oh,
just round the bases on all of them. First base, second base, third base. On just being the biggest scumbag in the whole fucking goddamn world.
A teacher. He's a teacher too.
Oh, a teacher. Yeah, well, he's a math teacher, and it's like, think maybe he did this before the cordyceps infection took over?
Oh
yeah, I'd say so, based on his, it's more fun when they struggle or whatever shit he says at the end.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, David fucking sucks, man. Really, all of it sucks. Lying through his teeth about it's interesting because it ties into the baseball bat guy that Joel killed. Is like he's connected to this group. He's the dad of someone in this group, and oh, we can't bury him because it's frozen out there. Like, nah, you motherfuckers are all eating him right now. You know what I mean?
That's what it is. He's in the fucking chili. He's in the chili, you son of a bitch.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, this is this is a harrowing episode. I think.
Nobody does anything about it. Like everybody thinks about it. At least as the guys that are out there hunting.
Like people know, some people know, and then probably I would imagine a chunk of them are like, this doesn't really taste like deer meat, but it's sustenance, I suppose. Oh man,
what a dude! Terrible guy.
Yeah, just a brutal episode. Just
happy tears though. I mean, there are happy tears at the end.
There are happy tears at the end. Ellie goes through a hell of a lot of trauma. She gets assaulted, and
Pedro's there.
Right. I mean, she takes that cleaver. She cleaves James, his right hand man first, which is good. That was Troy Baker. That's the voice of Joel and performer for Joel in the games, who's the right hand man who gets cleaved, which is fun. But then she cleaves the fuck out of David, rightfully so, justifiably so. But that's just pure trauma, just all of that. Every experience in there is just pure trauma. And then to be reunited with Joel, just and he's like, it's okay, baby girl. It's like, oh no, it's not okay anymore. Man. Now I'm a blubbering mess, you bitch.
And he was there though. He had to kill all those people coming out of a fucking comatose, whatever he was in. We don't really
see that, but it's kind of just like, there's no one else around anymore. Where'd they go?
And he's just like flat out throwing himself on people. He just
well, even the guy that he fucking knifes in the neck when he's like half fucking dead, in the basement, just he does what he needs to do, man. I don't know, man. It's just this
machine.
But those two together, like that's the full arc of their relationship is kind of,
I'm coming to save you. You can count on me. Oh,
well,
man,
Ellie,
so
like Joel has protected Ellie, and Ellie did enough to protect and save Joel that he could come back, and he doesn't really save her in this moment, but he's there to offer comfort. He's not there to fucking kill people for her. He's just there to be someone to offer her comfort, and in a time where she was alone and thought maybe Joel was dead, and not going to be with her anymore. And it's just such a beautiful kind of completion of how their relationship has gone from cargo to basically surrogate daughter at this point. And we see more of that obviously as episode 9 goes on, but yeah, that's kind of it. Joel and Ellie are a team at this point. But that brings us to episode 9, right? The finale. Shorter episode than some, but still covered plenty of territory. We open with that flashback of Ellie being born. This is all stuff not in the game, but the mother, Ellie's mother, Anna, is played by Ashley Johnson, the Ellie from the games, which is cool, very cool. And we kind of see maybe like how Ellie might be immune, because Anna gets bitten kind of while she's giving birth. She severs the umbilical cord, and that's enough. And I think it's kind of explained, I guess a little bit later by Marlene, like whatever happened, like the cordyceps is kind of in her brain, but she's recognized as infected by the infected because of this kind of sort of thing. So it's a really kind of weird, maybe freak circumstance that has created this maybe path to immunity to develop a cure, which is really interesting, which is a really interesting thing. But maybe the way that the Fireflies go about developing this cure is a little questionable. What do you think?
Little fucked, maybe. Yeah,
because and this is the thing I felt the way about the game, and they retained it here, and it's like Marlene keeps making this point of like, she would do the same thing. Ellie would do the same thing. If we gave her a choice, she would do the same thing. And it's like, then why didn't you? Why didn't you give it to her is a choice. And it's because they're so fixated on this idea that there has to be a cure, that we can't even take the chance that Ellie would say no and say, I would rather live my life than offer a chance at curing humanity. They're not willing to take that chance. And in doing so, they turn Joel back into that blunt instrument.
A machine.
He's a machine. He fucking turns into the goddamn Terminator in this episode.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing about it is that whole sequence of him just going to town, killing everyone, all the fireflies in sight. That's just the video game. You know what I mean? Like it was actually one of the combat sequences from the video game finally brought to the show, like kind of as it is, where you just get kind of an endless stream of fucking villains where you're just running around, hiding around corners, shoot. All right, yeah, keep going, shoot. You know, like I just thought that was like the final episode is where they bust out this like video gamey kind of sequence where it's just Joel on a Terminator rampage because they're gonna kill Ellie. And like after we saw the end of episode 8, you bet your goddamn ass he's gonna kill every one of those motherfuckers because like it's such a fucked way that they handled it. You know what I mean? It's like I think Joel
there's just no way to save her. We have to cut her brain out.
Yeah, and it's like, won't you try anything else? You don't want to contemplate any other options. It's just cut her brain out. Like that's it. You just resorted to that without any sort of thing. Like the fireflies are a bit of they're kind of a bit of fuckheads. You know what I mean? Like there are ways to handle this, even if it is literally just we don't have the capacity to like extract what we want to extract from your brain without killing you. Like say that this is how we cure humanity, and Ellie, and they're right. I think Ellie would say yes in a heartbeat. I think Ellie would happily say, if this saves other people's lives, if this means that a Riley doesn't get infected, if this means that a Tess doesn't have to die, then I will do that. But it's her
choice to make. Right.
But it's her choice to make, and they take the agency away from her. And that's their fatal flaw, which is Joel just turning Joel into, you know, putting him on this rampage. And it's so interesting to me because I think Joel's rampage is fairly righteous in how he approaches it.
Sure.
And even though Marlene's not wrong, and even though maybe Marlene doesn't deserve to get shot as much as some of those guys deserve to get shot, you side with Joel. You understand why Joel's doing what he's doing.
Absolutely.
I think beyond that, you know, he makes some questionable decisions and lying to Ellie and stuff like that. But you understand why Joel is doing what he's doing. You understand why he's telling her what he's telling her.
And that's the interesting thing that comes out of it is where does the story go next?
Right.
Because she point blank asks him, are the things that you told me about that about
swear to me that they're true.
Yeah.
And he says, I swear.
I swear they're true. It's going to obviously come out that they're not true.
Obviously, he's fucking lying. We know he's fucking lying.
Right.
And yes, obviously, we know that that's going to go somewhere, but the question is, where does that go? And I guess for the answers is play The Last of Us Part 2. But obviously, you know, we've got more than that in terms of, you know, we've got a show. You know, we've got a show to look forward to. So...
fun fact, we've made it to the end of all the episodes and everything. I thought at some point, I never thought that Joel moved forward for part 2. I thought,
you thought Pedro was in here for one, or this guy's so fucking busy. Like, how the fuck's he gonna do multiple seasons of this show?
I thought he either died when he got stabbed, or I thought that maybe he had been bitten and hadn't revealed it, like when he's leaning against the post and can't breathe right.
Right, he's got like these panic attacks or whatever throughout.
Yeah, so I thought maybe he had been bitten. I thought that and even when like referring to the video games, I always thought that he just had been. I thought he died. I thought he died before part 2, in some capacity, and it left Ellie alone. So I have no conception.
You were waiting for him to die, and then you're like, wait, he's alive. What happened?
He's alive. A little bit of hope there. What the fuck's going on?
Maybe there's happiness. Maybe.
I'm eager to see what happens in part 2.
Yeah, I think my personal plans, I will probably play The Last of Us Part 2 sometime before Season 2 comes along. I think this is such a show that requires production levels that it's going to be 2 years before we get another season.
That's fair.
And I think that they've already said basically that like Part 2 is a longer game than the first one. We're not going to cover all of Part 2 in a single season. And I think there's also a time jump to even get to, I think Ellie's like 16 in part 2 or 17. So there's like years that have passed before the events even start. So there's an opportunity maybe to flesh
Not in
out
a
that time
rush.
in between. Right, if it makes sense to. If it's just, Joel on a sheep farm or whatever, is that interesting? I don't know, but I think there's ways that they can take it. It doesn't have to 100% adhere to what the video game did. So we'll see. Yeah, but I want to play part 2 before season 2 because I kind of want to again be ahead of the curve and see how they adapt certain things. Like I liked that experience of being able to be like, oh, I loved how they just did that in exactly the same way, but then I also loved how they did that in not the exactly the same way. Just
Right.
the ways that they kind of handled the adaptation side of things was really, really neat and interesting to see for me as someone that is not usually, again, on this side of things. So I'll get around to part 2 at some point, I think. I will also say, and this is probably one of my last things to say for The Last of Us, is there's a companion podcast available. Yeah, I'm going to recommend a different podcast. It's Craig Mazin, Neil Druckmann, and Troy Baker, the three of them together, and they do an episode-by-episode kind of thing, like a debrief, talking about the decisions they made in changing and adapting the games or casting and stuff like that. And I think it's a really, really interesting thing to listen to. It's just called HBO's The Last of Us podcast. I was just trying to figure out what it was called. But really interesting insight, obviously, from the people involved in the show, and why they did what they did, and like certain things, like there's a thing, there's that moment in Left Behind where the mall lights up, and they were talking about how that was all done with visual effects, and like you'd have no idea just from looking at it because it's just really well done. The work that went into making that shot. They had an abandoned mall that they shot at with it was like a 1-story mall, and so they kind of had to digitally kind of convert it into a 2-story mall and have that kind of visually consistent throughout the episode. Just like little shit like that, like little insights that you wouldn't think about. But would recommend that. Haven't listened to the episode for episode 9 because just watched it obviously before recording. But yeah, The Last of Us is an incredible fucking show. If you just listen to our very long spoiler deep dive, and you haven't watched the show, I mean, still watch it. Obviously, there's a lot to enjoy in this show, and then obviously we didn't hit on every little facet either too. So yeah, we're in March of 2023, and we have a strong contender for the best TV show of the year, and it's going to be a high bar to clear for any show to catch up, I think.
I agree
about it.
Yeah.
All right, any final thoughts for you on The Last of Us?
No, that's it.
All right, I know we've been out a while. I don't have a whole lot on my end, but I'll kick it to you regardless. Anything you've been up to you want to talk about?
I have finally finished.
Is this what I think it is? Is this what you
The
texted
Hero
about
of
yesterday?
Ages.
Oh,
Yes.
no, it's that. Okay, I thought I was talking about... Wait, no, you did text about that last night. I was thinking of a dresser you built.
I finally finished the fucking dresser too. My child-to-be's dresser is also built after 4 months.
It's a lot of heartache.
Oof, what an endeavor, dude.
Took as long to build it as it did to watch the entire series of The Last of Us.
It's true. It's
not longer.
pitiful. It was a terrible experience, but it's finally
done. It's done and it looks good. But The Hero of Ages. All right, so you've completed the original Mistborn trilogy. What are your thoughts on it?
Original Mistborn trilogy, I would say, as a whole, they fall second to Stormlight Archive.
Okay.
They're just they're very cool, but they're just not as Stormlight Archive is really like in depth and epic and all
Speaks
this,
to you.
right? Yeah, it's cool. But the original Mistborn trilogy has some really great characters. It's much more simplistic, and the ending for the Hero of Ages probably tops. It might top it. It might the ending might top anything in Stormlight Archive. The ending for book 3 is fucking absurd. It is so good.
I guess that kind of makes sense because if it's the end of a trilogy, then like that's. I mean, obviously now there are 4 more Mistborn books after that, but it's like that set of characters, like that's their finale, right? So maybe book 10 of Stormlight might have the equivalent of, that level of oh shit, maybe.
And it's not even necessarily like I enjoyed the ending for the way it was written. And don't get me wrong, so, like the things that happened were pretty cool, but the way it was written was really, really fucking cool. Like, it was really awesome. Not necessarily like in universe, but I appreciate like the way that Sanderson wrote the last like 2 pages. Like, it was just it was really good. If somebody were to, if I would actually say that if you want to start reading Sanderson, I'd probably honestly recommend, Mistborn first.
Start there.
Like, they're all like 500 pages. They're pretty breezy. I didn't read them, but what I will tell you is like, it took me months to finish, Hero of Ages. It's like a 500-page book, I think. And I read 100 pages like 2 nights ago. Mm-hmm. And I don't read frequently at all, but I knocked out 100 pages. It was a really awesome read because it was the end of the book, I guess. But I knocked out 100 pages in about like 2 hours. So like, if you were to actually like attack these books and read them, I would imagine you could read those Mistborn trilogy in like, less than a month.
Fly through those fairly quickly. Stormlight's
whereas the other one,
Stormlight's,
Stormlight's 3 times as long each book. Right. They're tomes.
They're epics.
But yeah, so I did that. I watched the first John Wick, which was good. I like the John Wick. Sarah did not like. She got very upset actually because the dog sequence. She was not a fan of that.
Yeah, it's upsetting.
Like, but they got what they got coming to them.
It's the reason that John Wick is back.
He agrees with you. But that did not. It didn't make things right. So anyway, she was pretty put.
He gets
off
a new
by
dog
that.
though. It's not the same.
He does.
I know, but he does get a new doggy.
I'm not caught up on Mandalorian because I didn't watch tonight. I need to watch tonight's Mando.
Well, what were you doing instead?
Instead, I was watching.
Oh, I was just making a joke about recording for
The
3
Voice.
hours, but there. Okay, that works too.
I was watching The Voice.
All right, so Mando, I think was the 5th episode that just came out today-ish. So yeah, okay.
Yeah,
all right, so you're 4 in.
Yeah, I think I'm caught up on Abbott Elementary. Been watching that as they come out. And we have a baby shower. Baby shower is on Saturday.
Very nice.
Yeah, so aside from that, though, that's it. What about you? What you been up to?
I got a whole lot of nothing on my end for the most part. I spent a lot of time playing The Last of Us Part 1, and I spent a lot of time watching The Last of Us, and you heard a lot about that already. Other than that, the only things that I could think of were 2 in on Mandalorian. So it's pretty cool so far. It's The Mandalorian.
It's pretty
cool. Feels like The Mandalorian. It's good. It's not Last of Us tier, but it's good. And it's more Pedro Pascal goodness gracing our screens. So we appreciate that, of course. Yeah. I think now that we're done with The Last of Us, we'll probably try to catch back up, finish Andor, catch up on Mando. I think we're behind on Poker Face, which is probably done by now, and it's probably something else that we started watching that I forgot about. But the only other thing that we've really been watching a little bit more so is Abbott Elementary, because it's a little easier bite-sized episodes to kind of get through. I think we're like 6 or 7 behind from the live airing, so we're definitely behind where you are, but we're past. We've done like the Christmas episode, and I think one episode after they came back from the break. I think it was a little awkward between Mr. Eddie and Miss Teagues.
Mr. Eddie. Shit's so funny. I love that. I love that show. It's so hilarious.
It is very funny. I think that the second season has been more consistently funny for me than the first season. And I think I probably like the characters better, but I just find that they're all kind of just being written at the right speed now. Like, I just like their interactions are funny. The kids are funny. Fucking Ava is incredible. Just the worst, but also best principal of all time. But I find like Janine is less annoying than she was in the first season almost. Like she's endearing now and like kind of fun and relatable and and Jacob
Holy
is
shit, dude.
fucking Jacob. The podcast episode was hilarious, I thought.
Yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, go ahead. We went to an ultrasound thing. Like it wasn't a hospital ultrasound last Saturday. It was just like we got a thing for Christmas where we can go to it's called a Stork's View. You go to this place and they do like a 4D ultrasound. They take the pictures and send them to you the whole 9 yards. Okay. Anyways, the ultrasound tech lady was the redhead lady from South Philly. I swear to God. Her hair was black.
Okay.
But I swear to God, dude, if you closed your eyes and listened to this woman talk...
Maybe she's from South Philly.
She moved straight up from South
Florida.
Philly. Like, I almost wanted to ask her, are you from South Philly? Where do you go for your steaks? Yeah. And I didn't ask her anything, but she sounded just like that redheaded lady.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, though.
That's all I got.
Yeah, we'll try to have a little bit more next episode. Maybe some Barry. Maybe I'll try to watch some Barry. But yeah. Baseball starts tomorrow, so that's exciting.
Did you watch the world shit?
The World Baseball Classic. Just little bits and pieces here and there.
I was disappointed to find out that we're like playing people from Japan,
right? Yeah,
and they really play on the Rays. It's like fuck you. No, that guy's now. I had a problem with that. I thought for some reason I had this conception.
There's Japanese players that just play in the MLB. I mean, it's not crazy.
Well, maybe it's not. But going into it, I had this conception that like, okay, Japan has sent their best baseball players against America. We're facing off against the Japanese in baseball.
I think the thing is that when the best Japanese players can make a shit ton more money in America, so they come to MLB teams and sign with them for ludicrous contracts and make fucking bank. Like that's what they get really good in the Nippon baseball league, and then they come over and sign mega million contracts. Like you have Shohei Ohtani, who's like ridiculous.
Is that the 20-year-old pitcher?
Yeah.
That dude is fucking like I don't watch a lot of baseball, but I did watch the Japanese.
Like he's like fucking Babe Ruth in the modern day era, where like incredible pitcher, fucking slugger, at the plate. Like it's insane. Like it's just kind of unheard of. Like the dude literally changed the way that MLB The Show is made, where you can create a player that's a two-way player now. Like that was unheard of. Like like that was a shit that happened back in the day because they didn't care if your arm fell off from pitching 300 pitches a game, and everyone was just expected to just crank home runs or whatever. Dude's
just built different. Is that what you're saying?
He's just built different. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, there's that. March Madness is happening too. We have 2 Florida teams in the Final Four, crazily enough, and neither are Florida, who did not make the tournament. But I'm rooting for Florida Atlantic because they kicked Florida's ass early in the season. I was like, maybe these guys are good after all, and I picked them to go to the Sweet 16 in my bracket. And I didn't pick them further than that, but I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, I don't know anything about basketball.
So it's been a crazy March Madness. But anyway, I'm just prologuing this episode for no goddamn reason. So let's wrap it up now. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. Patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. If you go to that website and submit $2 into the little entry form, you can get early access to all of our regular episodes, exclusive access, timed exclusive access to any bonus episodes that we work on. Sorry, folks, we are not doing a John Wick bonus episode after all. Maybe when Chapter 5 rolls around, I don't know. But we'll do something. We'll cook something up. We talked about a
Beetlejuice.
We talked about a Beetlejuice. I think we talked about Gremlins once upon a time. I don't know, man.
Shit.
Maybe we'll follow up our Studio Ghibli bonus episode that we did 3 years ago with another one. We could go back there and just do one every 3 years. We'll do something. We just got to figure out the timing and whatnot, and what to do and such. So it'll happen. But stay tuned for what does happen on that front. But either way, it's good for early access 12 regular episodes. I think that's helpful, especially when we do long episodes that take a long time to edit. You get to have them that much earlier than the next person. Our questions, that's not right. Our website is watchreviewrepeat.com. You can go there and get links to all of our social media accounts. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/watchreviewrepeat. We're on Twitter at WRRPod. We are on Instagram at watchreviewrepeat. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, and you want to be a part of a future edition of the Listener's Corner, you can send things our way, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com, or, of course, hit us up on any of the socials that I mentioned. Our intro and outro tracks, it's Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. So, although we are a little bit late to the party, I think that we'll probably try to cover John Wick 4 for our next episode, John Wick Chapter 4.
I co-sign that.
Yeah, I think we both really want to see it. I myself would love to rewatch the trilogy. You only have 2 more to watch on your end if you wanted to do the same. But I think it's doable. I think we can pull it off and have an episode on it. What that means is we'll probably have to skip over Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Kind of bombed and didn't get great reviews, so it's probably no huge loss. I might try to skip
over Dungeons and Dragons too.
Dungeons and Dragons is at 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
What?
I kind of want to see Dungeons and Dragons to see what the fuck the buzz is about. So we'll wait and see. I think John Wick's the priority, and if we have time for Dungeons and Dragons, I almost think we need to cover it if it's getting that good of reviews, given how fucking awful it looked. Because something's going on. Either the marketing team fucked up, or the critics are using lots of drugs. It's one or the other. I don't think there's an in between, and I kind of need to figure out what the story is. But anyway, John Wick. Look forward to John Wick, and I hope you enjoyed our coverage, extensive coverage of The Last of Us. Go play the games. Go watch the show if you haven't already. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. In fact, it's good shit. So get on it. And yeah. I'll let Andrew take us out from here.
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Later's on the Menjay.